So, hello everyone. This is Naj. It took me, 4 and possibly more than 4 months to come back and actually do anything. Um, it's kind of sad, honestly. I really shouldn't have done this. I technically could have done what I'm about to do much earlier, and I could have done more things. Instead, um, I've been kind of everywhere and nowhere at once. Honestly, I don't know how many of you are actually going to watch this and get anything out of it. I'm really only making it for kind of historical purposes and also as just a thing that I can start doing that actually feels like I'm doing something. Um, because I kind of need that now. I don't want to get into the specifics, but I've spent a lot of time doing things that aren't really getting me forward. One of which being spending quite a lot of time making random projects with AI vibe coding, some of which were kind of cool, but in the end, they're all like random little things that I don't know if I'm going to ever put anywhere or anyone except me and maybe a couple of other people that I'm close to will use. It's very. I don't want to get into it much. I've spent months and months uh, playing games, quite a lot of which has resulted from all the work that people have been doing lately of making vibe coded accessibility mods for games that we as blind people wouldn't have been able to play until now. Um, like for example, I've gotten into Monster Train, something that I didn't think I would have been able to do. I haven't played much of it yet, but a couple of runs that I did made me um, quite hopeful that maybe I can get somewhere in it. Uh, there's a few other games that I bought and I played this way. Um, some of which some of you might be interested in, some of you might not. This is also kind of um, shared with some of the other random stuff I've been doing in terms of games, um, like playing random older stuff from the 2000s and for example the new Super Liam that just came out. There's a lot of random things that I don't actually remember anymore that I spent quite a lot of time doing. Um, the one thing that I didn't do much of is MML. I kind of got stuck. I wouldn't necessarily say got stuck, it's just I didn't feel like doing it, which honestly, it's a small barrier to entry. I really could have continued it, and I kept telling myself from like March onward when I finally like made another thing. I was like, I need to continue doing this. I need to do more of this, and I just didn't. Uh, in the past week, I've been uh, occupied with listening to the Eurovision Song Contest. That was fun. But like everything just kind of passes me by, and I just kind of sit here doing random things and not actually getting anything done. So, um, I need to change this, or at least somewhat. I can't just be here. Oh yeah, also, the microbit coding stuff has also kind of taken a standstill. I'm hoping to rectify this soon, but um, I did like a couple things, nowhere near as much progress as I did in the beginning of the year when I was showing everything. Um, I just need to get myself wanting to do more of this. I don't really want to spend a huge amount of time talking more about this. Suffice it to say that I hope to be back at least in limited capacity, and if anyone watches any of this, and not even just because they're interested in whatever I'm doing in the video itself, but like if you have like anything that you want to tell me about or whatever, feel free to do so, because I need to actually talk more with people. Well, actually, you know, what am I trying to say? I need to communicate with anyone who is outside the immediate circle of friends I have, to actually get stuff out and tell people what's been happening, at least as in a limited sense as I can. Anyway, enough of this. I'm going to get to the actual part of the video where I do something that I've actually enjoyed doing, that I want to show and talk about in the next hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't even know how long this is going to be. And yes, it will be that long, and we probably won't get very far because I like to talk about everything. I'm pretty sure you know this by now. I'm not going to explain any more of it because the people who actually do watch this kind of stuff already know. So, there's that. So, I've been talking about playing games, and there was one time a while ago, I don't know when this was it 22, was it 23, I don't remember. I made a couple videos on Slay the Spire because that was a thing that I was doing at the time, and I felt like it was actually something worth doing. Turns out, I've been converted, so to speak. I haven't played Slay the Spire once since, like, I think 24, maybe. I don't have it installed on this new computer that I got in the beginning of 25 either. Instead, back when it was only on the phone, I used to play this on the phone, and now that it came out on the computer, I'm doing it here. I'm playing Dawncaster instead, which is a lesser known but slightly similar kind of styled game. It's a deck building roguelike as much as Slay the Spire is, but there's quite a lot of differences, some of which I personally think make it more approachable, but there are some other things that make it less approachable as well. It very much depends on personal preference. I'm not here to tell you that Dawncaster is better or something. I'm just saying I've been converted, and I personally like playing Dawncaster more. There's a lot of advantages to Slay the Spire as well. Like, if you know what you're doing, you can probably finish a run of Slay the Spire much faster than you do a run of Dawncaster. And it definitely tests you more. It makes you think. But there's a certain point at which I stop being able to do what I think is probably the best way forward in Slay the Spire, which can impact my decisions very heavily, I've noticed. And Dawncaster's a little bit better about this. Without talking about, without constantly going in circles and just explaining, let's get into it, let's play, and let's actually talk about it as we go, because this recording is probably already going to be huge as it is, and we won't get very far unless we start. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn eloquence down to a reasonable level so at least someone can understand. I hope this will be okay for most people. And yes, I've converted to eloquence for the last while. I could technically use something else, but this is what I've been living with for the past year or two, so it is what it is. Let's play Dawncaster then. Well, at least get into it, and then I'll show you some stuff.
Steam Big Picture Mode Row 1 application. Play. Starting launch section.
And yes, I'm going to be using my gamepad for this.
Dawncaster. Loading scene 0%. Game loaded. Press to continue.
Dawncaster is a Unity game, and it uses Unity accessibility even on the computer version. So you'll hear a lot of noises that sound very familiar if you've ever played anything with a Unity accessibility plugin. I'm going to press the A button.
Continue. Gain 10 finishers.
And it says I gained 10 fate shards. So, now we're in the main menu, and we get to explore the screen. As it happens,
Store. Continue.
there is a run in progress right now, and I'm going to be abandoning this run and actually starting a new one.
Store. Rewards. New game.
Actually, you can just press New Game, I think. I'm going to try that at one point, but I am arrowing up and down with the D-pad to explore this menu. In some instances, you can press left and right to switch between groups of elements. Again, this is a Unity accessibility thing. So I'm going to first talk about this menu before we go anywhere. So
Rewards. Store.
the
Continue.
very first option is Continue. If you have a run going, it'll let you continue it.
Store.
Store is where you buy things, and to be quite honest, I'm not sure why this exists in the computer version, because there are DLCs that used to come with that used to come as in-app purchases on the phone or on the mobile versions. And by the way, this game is available for both iOS and Android, and it's accessible on both platforms as far as I know. Well, on iOS definitely. On Android maybe less so. But I think it's still mostly accessible. The store page is where you would have gotten these DLCs, but the computer version comes with most of them. I think when there's going to be new ones, then they can put it in here so you can pay for them, maybe. The game, by the way, on mobile costs $5 by itself, and on Steam it costs $25, which is quite a lot, but it comes with everything. So it's as if you're buying the game and the DLCs at once. I could be wrong though, you might want to just look at the prices yourself, but this is what I remember. Okay, so the store page is here.
Rewards.
The rewards page is one of the biggest, most important part of this game. Basically, we'll get to this later, but there is a fate shard system where when you finish a run, whether that is by dying or whether that is by making it to the very end and actually winning your run, you get fate shards. And these fate shards are used to upgrade your characters in different ways by going up the ranks. There are a few different ways in which you can do this, and I've maxed out basically all of them except one. I've done probably over 100 runs of this game at this point from the 2.5 years that I've owned it since January of 24, and I can't tell you how many hours of gameplay I have in it, but it's probably a lot more than Slay the Spire at this point. It's actually kind of insane. It's perhaps the single game that I've spent the most time in of my life in, except maybe Sequence Storm. So I know quite a lot about it, and this is why it's going to be so difficult for me to make a video, because I'll be rambling constantly. So yes, fate shards and rewards. Basically, you go in here to upgrade your characters, and every time you start a run with that character, you'll have extra stuff applied. This is sort of similar to Slay the Spire in that your characters have levels and XP and things, except in Slay the Spire the unlock progression is automatic and it's nowhere near as extensive. In Dawncaster, you get extra health and extra, other stuff that really does change the beginnings of your runs from then on if you manage to unlock them. Not to mention, when we get to the basic attack / starting card situation, I'll talk more about this.
New game.
And then there's new game, which I'm going to click on soon.
Daily 2 times status shards available. Your next run will earn double the amount of status shards. Resets every 24 hours.
This means that every day, if you finish a run, the first run you finish every day is a Fate Shard double run, so you get twice as many. I usually wouldn't think about playing more than one run a day anyway, because they take quite a long time. They can take up to 3-4 hours for me, possibly longer if I take breaks.
Bounties.
Bounties are kind of cool, but I haven't been focusing on them much because of how many Fate Shards I already have that I'm not using for anything. Basically, they're little objectives that you can gain Fate Shards for. Also, recently there have been achievements that have been introduced that you can get Fate Shards for as well.
Leaderboards, run history, and the weekly challenge.
Leaderboards, run history, and the weekly challenge. This screen is kind of cool. It does all these 3 things in one. Basically, you get to see how well people did and how well they rank on the leaderboard. That's one way. That's one part of it. The run history is where you can check all your runs and see stats about them, including when you played them, how far you got, what your score was, all those things, your deck compositions. It's not Slay the Spire detailed, but it's there. And then the weekly challenge is kind of cool. I used to play some of these back in the day. I haven't done it in a while, but last year I did. Basically, every week, the developers of the game put out a thing with very special conditions and different compositions of decks and things, and you have to try to complete the game in those conditions. It's very rare that I manage to do so because they are quite difficult.
Codex.
Codex is your encyclopedia, so this is where you go to look up cards, keywords, all those things. Although, I wouldn't recommend doing this in the game because it's not as accessible as you might want it to be. Instead, I would recommend you consult the Blightbane wiki if you really want to have a look at a wiki-type resource. That's where you should go. It's the official Dawncaster wiki. It gives you information about basically everything, including the random encounter events as well, which are a little bit like Slay the Spire's events, except they don't tell you on the choices what is going to happen when you click a choice. You have to just know. Anyway, let's keep going in the menu.
News and updates.
News and updates. This is where you would go to check for what the latest updates are. You can also go and do this from within Steam itself, in most cases.
Join the Discord server.
There's a Discord server, which I'm not a part of.
Your Fate Shard amount, 8117. Press for more info.
Yeah, I have 8,117 Fate Shards. It's insane.
Settings. Settings.
And then the last item is settings, which you can go in and adjust quite a lot of things, including some accessibility-related features. I'm going to quickly go in here just so you can have a look.
Settings. Close settings. Sound.
There's a sound. These are tabs at the beginning. It doesn't tell you, but they are.
Display and performance settings. Gameplay settings. Language. Alpha. Accessibility settings.
So we're in the sound tab right now.
Advanced settings. Report a bug via Discord. Background music volume is 20%.
You can tap this continuously to raise it and then go back to 0.
Sound effect volume is 100%. Sound effect volume is 100%. Back report mathematics.
That's all that's in
sound.
here. I'm going
Display
to go to
gameplay
the
settings. Gameplay settings. Advanced settings. Report a bug. Card cover effect is set to on. Enemy animations are normal. Faster card animations are normal.
You can make the enemies act faster. I usually don't do this because it's already fast enough and I need to figure out what they're doing. And the screen announcements really don't go much faster, so I don't think making the animations faster is going to help. It'll probably just confuse me.
Background blur is off. Background blur is on. Background blur is 1.3x.
Wait, that's confusing.
Background blur is background fast enemy cards report
I
advanced
don't know what
accessibility
that's
settings.
about. I'm going to go to the accessibility settings
Accessibility
so I
settings.
can show you what's in here.
Advanced report above screen check is on. Energy icons are off. High contrast. U buttons are off.
That's meant to be dialogue buttons.
Screen reader is on.
Screen reader, this is what you would use to turn off the accessibility plugin if you need to.
Speech speed is 100.
This is in case you're running it on a different OS that is not NVDA compliant.
Manual energy selection is on.
Manual energy selection.
Color enemy information off.
I don't know what that is. Manual energy selection is kind of important, and if it's not on, I'd recommend you turn it on.
Color enemy information. Manage speech screen. High energy screen. Report advanced set language game. Display sound close settings.
Okay. Unfortunately, there is no easy way to get out of menus. You would think, since this is a gamepad controllable game, that you can just press B to get out. Unfortunately, you can't. And also, there are a couple of non-standard button shortcuts that you can sometimes access, like by pressing start or shoulder buttons or trigger buttons or some other buttons. Unfortunately, they're not spoken, and so I can't tell you where and when you can use these shortcuts. You can also use computer keyboard shortcuts as well, but again, they're mostly activating buttons on the screen, so you can't like press a letter to check something, for example. You have to move to it. It's a little bit annoying, but you can get used to it if you're like me and you've been used to the mobile version for so long. It really doesn't matter.
Settings.
So that's what's in here.
Daily type new game.
I'm gonna press new game and see if it'll ask me.
Selecting class. Seeker. Mysterious
Nope.
wheel body and night rogue.
It doesn't even ask me.
Flip night. Hunt arcanist. Run it. Return slash close.
So I don't know why it put me. Hold on. I need to tell the cleaning robot to not do what it's about to do.
New notification from Betterbird. Vandy.dodge. Gmail.com. Received one new message. How do you prefer to be referred to as? From Emma.cozy.actions. 101.
So, what was I gonna do? Yes. So, selecting class. I thought it was going to ask me, like, hey, are you sure you want to abandon your current run? But I guess you pressing new game is confirmation enough. I don't know why it put me to the middle of the screen, but it's not meant to. This is where you were to select your class. There are 6, well, I guess technically 7 possible choices here. The way classes work in this game... No! What? Okay, you know what? I wonder, how noticeable is this noise if I listen to myself? It's actually not very loud. Okay, as weird as it is, I'm gonna keep it going because it kind of does need to do its job. So if it goes in here, you're gonna hear it a bit louder, but it is what it is. This is an unprofessional video for a reason. So, back to the discussion at hand. Classes. They work quite differently from how Slay the Spire classes work, in the sense that you don't have you sort of have a separation of different kinds of cards you get for each one, but there is a lot of overlap to the point where if you're playing specific classes, it is very much possible that you can end up with quite a lot of cards from different classes during your game. Because the reason why it's done like this, or the reason why you can end up having stuff like this, is because classes, basically all they do, besides changing your appearance and some of the starting cards you start with, is that they are made up of energy. So there are 3, well, technically 4 main types of energy in this game. There's strength, there's dexterity, and there's intellect. You use these energy icons to play cards, much like you do in Slay the Spire, except in this case, your classes are made up of combinations of those energy icons. So, for example, there are pure classes, like the Warrior gives you 2 strength at the start, the Rogue gives you 2 dexterity at the start, and the Arcanist gives you 2 intellect at the start. But there are mixed classes as well. The Hunter, for example, is strength and dexterity. The Knight is strength and intellect, and the Seeker is dexterity and intellect. so you get one of each. You always start with 2 energy at the beginning of your run. If you want to get like card rewards and things, you will be given the choice of getting cards from any of the classes that contain energy that you can play. Oh, and also there's holy energy, which you will sometimes get from different effects, different cards, different ways of getting, like, having things happen. There's a few different ways that you can gain holy energy. That's an extra thing. So, in the card rewards for especially mixed classes, you will sometimes get the ability to get cards that are of one of the main types. Like, for example, if you're a hunter, you will get warrior and rogue cards in the reward possibilities sometimes, because you can play either one. And then at the very bottom is the Sun Forge.
Run it back. Start a new run with all the settings from your last character.
Also, run it back. I forgot about that option. That's a fun one. I like it. I've never used it, but it sounds like a cool idea. You can scroll through all of these.
Arcanist, to master the elements or wield the arcanist forces of destruction. Hunter, brutal savages who inflict bloody devastation to anyone in their path. Knight, a bastion of honor and discipline against the forces of darkness. Rogue, cunning scoundrels with an affinity for fortune and flair. Seeker, mysterious fighters who wield body and mind as deadly weapons. Warrior, excels at up-close combat and their unmatched mastery of weaponry. Randomize, automatically select all random starting options for your character.
Oh, and also randomize. I've never done that because I like to actually use themed weapons and starting cards together usually, because they make the run easier and more synergetic, but I guess you can do it if you want to.
Sunforge, enter the celestial gauntlet that requires 10 finishers.
And then the Sunforge. So basically, the Sunforge is like... I don't know how to explain, really. It's a little bit like arena mode in Hearthstone. Basically, you choose the energy you want, like what kind of class you want to be, by choosing which energy type you want to go with, and then you get to put cards in your deck immediately from drafts of 3 until you have a specific number of cards in the deck. And then you fight bosses constantly, and then after each boss battle there's things that can happen where you can gain max health, you can heal yourself, you can add cards to your deck, you can remove cards, you can duplicate cards. There's a few different things that can happen. But that is how it works. It's difficult, but quite fun if you manage to get somewhere. This is definitely not what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be playing a normal run. And on that note, I'm now going to pause the recording and I'm going to do a little bit of research, because I want to figure out which class is probably going to be the best to play. Now, I have an idea on what I'd want to do, but I'll just let the data speak for itself. I haven't told anyone this, except maybe a couple of my friends, but I've been keeping track of most of my runs in Dawncaster and writing them down in an Excel spreadsheet because I am insane, and basically I want to try to improve on any runs that I haven't won, for example, and I just like to keep a record of all of them. So in this way, I can now check which class overall is going to give me possibly the most success. So I'll be back. I'm going to pause the recording, and I will choose a class that I can play with.
Steam untitled recording untitled.
Okay.
Dawncaster column.
I have chosen a combination of class and weapon and whatever that we can start with. I decided upon repeating perhaps the first victory that I've ever had in this game was in February of 24, when I was just getting into it and just like playing it for the first like week or so. I was very happy to actually have gotten a victory run for the first time, and the class that I did this with was the Knight. So I'm going to play as the Knight with the same the same cards and things that I did back then, and plus I'll have the added benefit of the fully upgraded meta progression stuff. So I need to...
Settings. Close settings.
Oh, it opened the settings dialog somehow. Oh yeah, I pressed the start button, that's why.
Subforge, Emperor, Random, Warrior, Seeker, Mysterious, Rogue, Knight, Hunter, Knight, Bastion of Honor and Discipline against the forces of darkness.
So, I'm going to choose the knight.
A black man with a stern expression and short return/close.
Now we get to select the portrait.
Return/close.
This really doesn't matter. And by the way, all the image descriptions are AI generated from back in the day when AI probably wasn't the best at image descriptions. So take everything it says with a grain of salt. Of course, I can't see anything, so the image descriptions sort of help, but sometimes it might be inaccurate for those who can, and I'm not going to dwell on this much, and also the portrait doesn't matter, so I'll just select the first one.
Longsword deal 2 damage. Return/close.
Okay, now.
Longsword deal 2 damage. Gain 2 armor. Upgradable.
Now we get to choose the starting basic attack that will accompany us through our journey. This is very important. In Slay the Spire, and also kind of, I guess if you can say Monster Train is different, but in Slay the Spire, every class started with basically what were neutral cards that would just either deal damage or gain armor. There was no, separation really between them. In this game, there is a huge amount of separation in terms of the way the basic attacks work, because each basic attack starts your synergy chain. So however you feel like playing the game partly depends on your basic attack and what it can do. So, for example, this longsword, which is the first one, and by the way, you unlock all of these extra cards using fate shards in the rewards menu for each respective class. I would recommend, if you were to be going through this game yourself, that you unlock the basic attack, the weapon power, and the starting card, we'll get to these in a bit, at the same time, because they are meant to go together, as you'll see. Just to give you an idea of what kind of choices I have, I'm going to go through this menu.
Return/close.
So the first basic attack is
Longsword deal 2 damage. Gain 2 armor. Upgradable.
Longsword gain 2 damage, deal 2 damage, gain 2 armor, upgradable. That means the armor also upgrades.
Greatsword deal 6 damage. Critical hit if only was spent to play this card. Stormblade deal 2 damage. Add a charged blade to your deck. Chain.
Don't worry if you don't understand most of these status keywords, it's fine. I'm just showing you what these different cards are.
Scimitar deal 2 damage. Flanking. Inflict 1 burning. Flow. 0/free. Inflict 1 frozen.
Now, it doesn't tell you how much energy each one of these cost. Some of them cost 1, some of them cost 2. It depends.
Katana deal 5 damage. Reduce the cost of a card in hand by 1. Critical hit if this costs no energy. Sunlance deal 3 damage. If only was spent. Conjure a virtue and gain 1 zeal. Firecast.
I forgot that was a thing.
Tome of Light deal 2 damage. Gain a random blessing. Radiant Mace deal 3 damage. Gain holy and critical hit every 0/free attacks.
The Knight's theme is very heavily emphasized to also work with holy builds. Now I'm not gonna do anything with holy builds in this particular run, but it is a thing that you are heavily incentivized to do as the Knight class. You can use holy builds in Knight most effectively, but also maybe as the Seeker, maybe? And also, in their own weird way, the Rogue can do it too, but for different reasons. I usually wouldn't do it much, though.
Voidblade deal 8 damage. Rampage and reaping while ascended. Defiled.
I remember that. That was a weird run.
Aegis gain 3 armor. Frenzy. Enable random equipment. Upgradable.
Oh, and then this.
Aegis gain 3 armor. Frenzy. Voidblade deal 8 damage. Rampage and reaping while ascended. Defiled.
These last two are the DLC weapons, basic attacks that you can get. They basically complement the extra sets of cards that were released for the new DLCs that came out since in the last year or two. Let's go all the way back up to the top. So, fortified weapon. This is the so-called weapon power screen, and the weapon powers are passive or sometimes active abilities that you can use every X number of battles. It doesn't tell you, but there is a cooldown for most of them, if they have an active ability at all. Some of them don't. And these will do different things. So in this case, it says...
Fortified weapon, use your weapon power to start your next combat with armor equal to 3 times your level and fortified.
Armor equal to 3 times your level and fortified. We'll get to this later. It's really not the most important thing right now. But I'm going to choose this one because these two go together. And then there's also the starting card, which is another extra thing that you can choose.
Bolster strike, deal 4 damage, dot on his, conjure a free bash.
This is the card that I'm going to be selecting, but just to give you an idea of what kind of cards you have in here, I'll go through these again.
Smite, deal 5 damage, then gain holy, piercing.
There's the holy. This is one way you can get holy, for example.
Storm shield, deal 1 to 6 damage, dot flow, 0/3, gain barrier for each damage dealt, chain.
Don't worry about the keywords again. I'm going to get to some of them once we get there.
Arcane slice, make a basic attack, dot flow, 0/3, conjure a random magic action and reduce its cost to 0. Glavis, make a basic attack, dot unhidden corrupted, conjure a X-Glove.
I don't remember how effective that was.
Dedication barrier card to gain holy, dot deplete, ascend, charges, 3/3, dot. Word of purity, cleanse and affliction, dot deal damage and gain health equal to your blessings, 0, dot. Radiant assault, make a basic attack, dot repeat for each type of energy you have, 0, dot. Combat under, deal 5 damage, dot remove void, gain 1 anger, dot remove with void, life drain, dot remove with void, draw 1.
Remove void. That's funny.
Battle cost starts in play, activate the deal damage equal to your armor, deplete, conjure, reconfigure, tutor ability.
I remember that. That was a weird thing that you could do.
Battle combat, radiant work, Glavis, make a basic attack, storm,
again, those are DLC cards. I'm going to go for Bolster Strike because it's the first one and it's the most basic one.
Bolster Strike, deal 4 damage, dot on his, conjure a free bash.
Conjure a free bash. That'll become insanely important as the kind of main strategy for this run. So let's go for it.
Starting in area, Sunfall Meadows, start game.
I am going to change this.
Infernal Invasions is off.
Also, Infernal Invasions is an extra DLC thing that you can enable. I've never tried it.
Next name.
You can choose names.
Artist of previous current weapon power, return slash close.
You also get a confirmation of what you've chosen.
Current weapon power, fortified weapon, current basic attack, longsword. Current card, bolster strike. Previous name. Artist of the sea, next name.
I'm going to keep the name, it's fine.
Infernal Invasions is off. Start game. Map selection settings.
I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to...
Now enabled. Save settings. Select first map. Choose which area to visit next after completing a map. Now enabled.
I will do this so I can actually just go through the core map, because the DLC maps are very different, and some of them not even I fully know what happens in each one of those. I am most familiar with the basic map. I guess I'll talk about this now. DLCs in this game, when you used to have to buy them, they contained maps and enemies. So basically the kinds of encounters you had were based on which DLCs you had active, and you could choose to either randomize, like basically every time you finished a map it would go to a new one that was one rank higher, or you can select from all the possible choices. The DLCs don't give you the cards. The cards are free. You can have them no matter if you've bought the DLCs or not. It's just the maps and the enemies that come with the DLCs if you buy them for mobile. And on the computer side, you'll have them from the beginning.
Select first map.
I will choose
Weeping Woods.
Weeping Woods as the first map because that is the default core map.
Choose randomizes the levels between all maps you have currently installed.
This is the other radio button, if you will, the randomize radio button. It doesn't tell you, but that's what it is. It's like a toggle.
Enter a code to create a run with consistent choices for each run on the same seed. Enter a code to
also do
save settings.
I will save this.
Settings. Card set filter.
You can also select what kind of card sets you want to use. I've never messed with this, even though I probably could to make my runs better.
Difficulty normal.
And you can change the difficulty. Now, difficulty is a subjective thing, but I've personally not found me ever wanting to go above normal. I want to actually have a fun experience with this game. There is also what is known as story mode, where you can die and you can come back and continue your run from where you died. But this mode gives you half as many fate shards as you would have gotten with normal mode. I personally don't play in this mode because each run usually only takes a few hours, but some people might want to, especially if it's their first time playing the game.
Difficulty normal.
And this is the end of this screen. Now it's time to actually start playing, after however long it's been.
Card map started. Next name. Then start game.
So, let's press this button and actually get somewhere. I'm going to, for the benefit of those who haven't seen this game before, I'm going to read all the text. So this might take a while. There is some story text. You don't have to read it. In fact, the second time after you've already completed a run, you'll get the option to skip most of it. But I'll go through most of it so you can hear what it's like.
Press any to continue. Press any to continue.
So, now we're loaded in.
Weeping Woods, the Weeping, the Gilded Summons, the Gilded Summons. 2 weeks after the invasion of Umbrus, a series of pamphlets start appearing all over the Shattered Realms. The richly decorated paper invites all adventurers in search of fame, fortune, or absolution to report to the Canto Fortress and join the glorious battle against Umbrus.
So, this game is sort of in the half, like, hey there, the cleaning robot couldn't find its way to the dock. I'll look at that later. This game is kind of set in a half medieval, half magical kind of fantasy setting. There's a lot of references to holy, like things to do with the Bible, and also demons and other such things. You don't really have to pay attention much to it if all you care about is the mechanics of the game itself. This story text is the first story text you get for the Weeping Woods area. It's different depending on which area you visit. I'm going to press A now.
Weeping Woods, your camp cloak hangs heavily over your shoulders, burdened by the rain that followed you on your long journey to the borderlands. Continue.
And now you get to choose Continue.
Paladin of the Vigil in the dark distance, a flickering light steps out onto the muddy road. Hail stranger, state your intentions, a voice calls out to you as the light of his torch reveals the weathered face of a Paladin of the Vigil. I'm here to answer the summons. Skip, head into the woods.
So this is where you would completely skip everything. Now instead of skipping, I'm here to answer the summons. And this is going to start a conversation chain where you can choose different things, like different conversation items, and it's a little bit like a Hero's Call if you ever played that, but nowhere near as complicated.
Paladin of the Vigil, the Paladin nods. I thought you might be. I pray you know what you are up against tonight. The journey into Umbrus is as treacherous as the demons that infest these lands. Who are you? I could use some information. Start tutorial. I could use a lesson. I can handle it. Who are you?
So these are the choices we have, and in most cases, the top few options are conversational items that you can kind of let the person talking to you kind of explain things, and then down below are your actionable items. So first I'm going to ask, who are you?
Paladin of the Vigil, the Paladin furrows one of his grey brows, too old to fight on the front lines, too proud to sit out this war. He smiles and rests his free hand on the large hammer at his side. Continue. Paladin of the Vigil, more to the point. I'm guarding these roads and keeping an eye out for anyone answering the Gilded Summons. These woods behind me can be treacherous and we wouldn't want to lose anyone whose greed or good intentions outweigh their ability. I could use some information.
And the next conversation point is I could use some information, so let's click on this.
Paladin of the Vigil, a wise decision. The dark lands of Umbrus have not been welcoming us kindly, but the Radiant Militia is showing these demons their time in the Shattered Realms is over and the dawn of humankind has arrived. The Radiant Militia? Why are we invading now? What are we fighting? That is all I needed to know.
So now we're in basically a second dialogue that you can exhaust for extra information.
Why are the Radiant Militia? Paladin of the Vigil, the Radiant Militia is a temporary coalition of the Council, the regents of the Shattered Realms and the Chantry of Light, and your future employer if you are here to answer their Gilded Summons tonight. Why are we invading now?
So basically, we are fighting with them against all the demons invading.
Paladin of the Vigil, because now we have the blessing of the sun gods themselves. They send us a clear sign of the champion who has managed to rally the Shattered Realms under one banner once again.
That champion ends up not actually helping us much.
What are we fighting?
As we'll soon see.
Paladin of the Vigil, the Paladin's expression turns grim as he looks up at the dark skies in the distance. Demons, awakened voicemen, the vilest of corruptions that have been applied on our realm for too long, but the light teams and their unholy masters have overstayed their welcome. That is all I needed to know. Paladin of the Vigil, the console down in Canto will no doubt be able to provide you with more details on the current state of affairs. Do you have any other questions for me? Start tutorial. I could use a lesson.
So, let's get to the part where we actually explain how at least the battle system of Dawncaster works. So, it's tutorial time. let's press this button and get ready. Some of the sounds in this game might be quite loud.
Paladin of the Vigil. Lesson. Well, that's something an old paladin like myself is capable of at least. Let me tell you about how I bested a particularly vicious boar just before you arrived. Start tutorial. Start tutorial. Player Elf 95. Welcome to Dawncaster. Welcome to Dawncaster. The Shattered Realm can be a dangerous place. Best prepare yourself. Press to proceed. Your turn. Player Elf 95. Welcome to Dawncaster. The Shattered Realm can be a dangerous place. Best prepare yourself. Press to proceed.
Why does it say that twice?
Next, you gain energy based on your STR strength and intellect and dexterity scores. Press to proceed.
So, the turn starts just as it does in Slay the Spire. You get energy at the beginning of your turn. You draw cards. Usually you draw 5. There's a couple of ways in which you can draw more or less, but it's all very status driven and stuff. And then, again, just like in Slay the Spire and in most other games like this, if your discard pile that you put cards into... No, if the deck is empty, that the discard pile that you put cards into will be reshuffled and becomes the deck. Yada yada. You should probably know this by now. You most of the time use energy to play cards. If you don't have any energy left, you can end your turn. Again, Slay the Spire like. There are a few differences though, and we'll get to those in a bit.
Our paladin has 2 strength, so there's a STR energy. Your energy isn't on the bottom of the screen. Press to proceed.
It's really funny how this tutorial text hasn't been cleared for typos. The energy is actually, in terms of accessibility, on the top of the screen.
Play your card by dragging it towards the middle of the screen. Press to proceed. The energy cost of a card is shown in its top left corner. Select the card for more information. Press to proceed. Player Elf 95.
You don't have to do any of that. In fact, let me explore the screen.
Player energy STR 2.
So this tells you how much energy we have, and this is the paladin we're fighting against, or fighting with right now. It's not us. So they have 2 strength.
Player energy STR 2.
This is the top of the screen. The top of the screen contains energy,
Player Elf
health,
95. Show deck cards currently in deck 9.
deck,
Show character sheet.
the character sheet, which allows you to check like status, like attributes and things.
End turn.
End turn, which is 1 down, a 1 up from all your cards. And there's only 1 card in our hand right now, which is...
Heavy strike, STR 2, deal 6 damage, melee action, common, red.
So this is the one thing that kind of confuses a lot of people about Dawncaster, is when you arrow to a card, it gives you an absolute crap ton of information. This is actually a insanely basic card, and it already gives you a lot of information. So the name is Heavy Strike. It costs 2 strength energy to play, and it deals 6 damage. It's a common card, and it's red in color because it's 2 strength. Oh, it's strength only. It's a warrior type card. This actually isn't a real card, by the way. It's a tutorial only card. The game is asking us to play this card, but I'll go further down and show you what's below here.
Enemy name Tusker, enemy health 12, enemy energy 0, enemy hand attack, enemy description, this beast blocks this path and does not intend to move, a muscular boar, beast with brown fur and a thick mane, porcine snout, sharp tusks, press for detailed enemy information.
So, if you let it read the entire thing, it gives you basically all the information you need for the current enemy you're facing. If there were any status effects in play, either from for the enemy or for you, they would be in between your cards and the enemy information, and you can quickly go between these bits of the screen by going left and right to switch groups. Further down, you'll see a bunch of repeated information that are separate items about the condition of the enemy. Instead of boring you with all that, I'm going to go up and actually attack the thing using this Heavy Strike card.
Enemy Heavy Strike, a good enemy takes 6 damage, 6 left. A good hit, you dealt 6 damage, reduce the enemy's health to 0 to win the battle. Press to proceed.
Very, very self-explanatory.
We don't have any more cards, so it's the metal end our turn. Use the end turn button in the lower right corner. Press to proceed. Settings.
So let's press the end turn button to get to that.
Enemy name Tusker, enemy health 6, enemy energy 0, enemy hand attack, end turn.
And I'm going to press this. You can also, this is one thing I did figure out, you can press start on the controller to end turn at any time, although I wouldn't personally do it because ending the turn is one of those things, just like in Slay the Spire, where you need to be absolutely sure that you can't do anything else or you don't wish to before you do so. And there is no confirmation, nothing. So when you press this button, it will end your turn unconditionally. Now, of course, I wouldn't want it to ask me every time, but like in Hearthstone, for example, the access mod can sometimes go like, you can still do this, are you sure? In this game, there is no such thing. If you press end turn, it ends your turn, unconditionally, no matter what. So you need to be very sure that you press this only when you are sure you want to. But there's nothing for us left to do, so I'm going to press this now.
Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. 5, you take 3 damage. The board attacked and dealt damage. Let's prepare for the next attack. Press to proceed.
Now it's going to teach us about how to block.
End turn. End
We
turn.
get one card. Again, this is fully scripted.
Block, comma, neutral, 1, comma, gain 3 armor, dot action, comma, ground, comma, tooltips, armor, comma, when dealt damage. Take 1 less damage per stack of armor. Armor fades at the start of the turn.
So we know that armor is basically block from Slay the Spire. Exactly. What's confusing is that the card is literally called block. In Slay the Spire, the card is defend, and you gain block from defend. In Dawncaster, you gain armor from block, which is kind of confusing. You'll also only gain 3. This is important. In Slay the Spire, usually, you would have to defend against a lot higher attack numbers than in this game. Usually. Not always, but usually. So I'm going to use this card and end my turn.
You gain 3 armor stacks. We've gained armor. There are many status effects like this in the game with both positive and negative effects. Press to proceed. Select the enemy to show it of the cards you played or used against you. Press to proceed.
Show a list of cards that were used or played. In fact, let me show you that, because we'll be taking a look at those a lot.
Enemy name Tusker. Enemy health 6. Enemy settings.
If I go to the right of the settings button to go to the next group, you will see this.
Previously played card. Block, gain 3 armor. Previously played card. Bite, deal damage, colon 1 to damage, colon 3 damage.
So the bite attack is random that it just played. So this is how you can check what kind of cards the enemy played on their turn if you don't fully understand what they're meant to do. There's nothing left for us to do though, so I'm going to go back to the left.
Settings.
And if I go further, you'll see that we now have an armor status entry.
Enemy name Tusker. Enemy health player status. Armor 3 stacks when dealt damage. Take 1 less damage per stack of armor. Armor fades at the start of the turn. End turn.
So it tells us that we have 3 armor. And I'm going to end my turn now, and it should absorb all the armor because the boar is dumb and can't really do much than deal 1, 2, or 3 damage. And so, since we have 3 armor, we're going to absorb the hit.
Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. 5, you block the damage. Your armor absorbs the damage, comma, protecting your health total. Always keep an eye on your health in the lower left corner. Press to proceed.
The health is at the very top of the screen, next to your energy, when you're using accessibility, that is.
Any unspent energy carries over to your next turn. Use it to strike a decisive blow against your opponent. Press to proceed.
Now this is the very important difference between Slay the Spire and Dawncaster. In Dawncaster, you effectively have ice cream, or whatever that thing is in Slay the Spire, on all the time. Which means I've used 1 energy this turn. Because I've only used 1 of my 2 strength energy on the turn, I technically now will have 3 energy left. In fact, let me show you.
End turn. End turn. Show character sheet. Show character sheet. Show player energy. STR 3.
Now it tells me I have 3 because I didn't use 1 last time. You can have a combined total of up to 8 energy in all types. And you would think that's a lot, but sometimes it's kind of important to have that much. Maybe not as the knight, but as the arcanist or the rogue, definitely.
Longsword, comma, neutral, 1, comma, deal 2 damage, dot, gain 2 armor, dot, appraisable, dot, melee, basic attack, comma, end turn.
Now we get to use the signature cards that we have chosen as our basic attacks. Now this is purely coincidental, but as you'll see, there are 3 of these in our hand.
Longsword, comma, neutral, 1, comma, deal, longsword, comma, neutral, 1, comma, deal, longsword, comma, neutral, 1, comma, deal, 2 player status, armor 2 stacks when dealt damage,
Guess what?
end turn.
The enemy has,
Longs player status, armor, enemy name, press for detailed, enemy health 6.
as if it was made exactly to be made this way. Of course it is. It's not random. It's scripted. What do you expect? So, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to use these cards to defeat the enemy by using all 3 of them, since we have 3 energy to spend.
Player stat, longsword,
So
comma, neutral, 1,
let's
comma,
do
deal 2,
that.
enemy takes 2 damage, 4 left, you gain 2 armor stacks. Neutral energy, neutral, can be paid forcing any type of energy, press to proceed.
Yes, so neutral, it doesn't matter what kind of energy you have, it will use any energy. Most basic attacks are neutral, some starting cards are neutral. There's a couple of exceptions, but it's mostly just the basic attacks and starting cards that are neutral.
Longsword, comma, neutral, 1, longsword, comma, neutral, enemy takes 2 damage, 2 left, you gain 2 armor stacks. Cards you play move to your discard pile. Your discard pile is reshuffled into the deck once your deck has no more cards left. Press to proceed.
Again, that is common knowledge at this point if anyone's played Slay the Spire before.
Player status, armor 6 stacks when enemy players longsword common neutral
And
1
one
common deal 2
more.
enemy takes 2 damage 0 left. Victory. Next. Player gold 20.
Get used to hearing that a lot, because that's what happens when you defeat an enemy.
Next. You gain 1 gold. Paladin of the Vigilance, that's how I got this nasty star. So a word of caution, Paladin of the Vigilance, that's how I got this nasty star. So a word of caution, friend. Take care of yourself out there. You only have 1 life to give. Better make the most of it. I think I'm ready now.
So, that was the tutorial. As you could tell, it was very basic, very scripted. It didn't really have much in terms of strategy to it, but it at least allowed us to look at the battle screen briefly. Now, we need to talk about the exploration mechanics in this game.
You gain 15 gold. Paladin of the Vigil, very well. Knight, the Paladin hands you a small pouch. Consider it an advance on the summons. Now enter the Canto beyond these woods. Report the console evil lane. She will have the rest of your pay and your assignment. May the light guide you. Leave.
So, we're going to start in the Weeping Woods area, and you always start with 15 gold to start with, and your maximum health and everything. So, the tutorial fight that we just did is inconsequential. It doesn't matter.
Exploration. Show character sheet.
Why exactly did it do that? I don't know. It's not meant to. The 3 card noises were meant to happen, but the big, ding wasn't. I don't know what that was about. So, on the exploration screen,
show character sheet.
have
Player health 90. Player energy.
energy for some reason.
Player health 95.
Health.
Show deck. Cards currently in deck 11.
The deck.
Player gold 25.
The amount of gold we have.
Show character sheet.
Character sheet, which allows you to check things like what talents you have, what bounties you have yet to complete, basic information about your character, stuff like that.
Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your weapon power to start your next combat with armor equal to 3 times your level and fortified.
This is where you would activate your weapon power for the next combat if you wanted to. And down below here are our 3 options for what we can choose to interact with.
Sharp claw raven affected by enraged beady eyes watch you warily. Infested direwolf affected by enraged hairy massive muscle growls menacingly. Mini boss corrupted tusker Azor colon enraged end of turn colon gain 1 anger. This beast blocks this path and does not intend to move.
Oh, we have quite a thing on our hands, unfortunately. This is going to be a bit of a problem because, okay, I'm going to explain something about how this works first before people get really confused. The exploration deck, as it's called, contains all the cards that make up the area that we're currently in. Each area is made up of different things, including enemies, all 3 of which are enemies in this particular case, opportunities, which are events, nothing else. It is not like unknown rooms in Slay the Spire, like question mark rooms. They cannot be anything except events. They are always events of some sort. And campsites, which are used for healing your health or removing cards. Not upgrading. Upgrading is done in different ways. And that's another difference. In Slay the Spire, to remove a card from your deck from a campsite or from a rest site, you need to have very special things enabled. I think there's a relic for that. Anyway, so we were very unlucky in this case because we drew the mini-boss on the first set of 3 cards. That's not very good, because the mini-boss has an aura. And the aura says, gain 1 anger at the start of every turn. And that carries over to every enemy in the exploration screen that we're currently on. I definitely do not want to battle the mini-boss right now. I'm not strong enough. We will shortly, but we need to build up something in our deck first. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to choose one of the other 3, and they will have Enraged, which is probably going to destroy our health a little bit. By the way, if you go further down, you will see a settings button in case you do want to go in there.
Sharp claw raven affected by enraged beady eyes
Do
watch you warily.
not press the start button randomly, by the way. That will activate your weapon power. I figured that out by mistake. So, one of the things that you kind of have to do while playing this game, especially if it's your first or like the first few times playing, or when you first see a new area, is you have to experiment and like challenge things. see how enemies react, what kind of attacks they have, what they can do to you, so you can remember which ones you want to fight and which ones you want to avoid, if you possibly can. Because unlike in Slay the Spire, where the entire way of going around is by using the map screen and you're navigating around like a bunch of twisting paths, in this game the exploration deck gives you the ability to basically ignore specific enemies or things that you don't want to deal with if there are some other things that you can choose, because there are always 3 possible options drawn from the deck at random. So it is possible that you will have a specific thing that is showing, and you will be able to ignore it and just forget it exists. There are some cards that you are required to defeat or do something with before any new cards are added. Like, for example, in this case, the wild tusk boars are like that. We haven't seen any of those, but those are your standard enemies. They're the most basic enemies. In fact, the sharp claw raven, which is what I'm going to be fighting first, is a slightly more advanced enemy. It's not too bad, but we'll see. You'll see what I mean. When you are in the exploration area, there are always 3 cards drawn, but depending on what you've already done, sometimes one of those 3 might be a dead end. We'll get to that in a bit, eventually, when we get there. So, I'm now going to start a battle with this Sharp Claw Raven.
Use weapon power. Sharp Claw Raven affected by enraged PDIs. Watch you warily. Set enemy gains flying enchantment. Enemy your turn. Enemy left bolster strike comma and STR1 comma deal 4 end turn.
Okay, so we have 5 cards, and we are starting a battle.
Bolster enemy blessing. Enraged end of turn. Gain 1 anger.
And as you can see, the enemy has an extra thing on it that says, at the end of the turn, gain 1 anger.
Enemy blessing. Enraged end of turn. Gain 1 anger.
Anger is like extra damage added to any attack that the enemy deals. So what used to deal 2 will now deal 3, and then 4, and so on. So you need to be very careful about that.
Enemy enchantment. Fly gain 1 evasion every time you take damage.
Now this is the hard part about this battle, is that this enemy is flying, which means every time it takes damage, it flies, and any melee attacks, which these are melee attacks that we're using right now, are not going to do anything to it, because evasion is going to basically make them useless.
Enemy name Sharp Claw Raven. Enemy health 18. Press for the enemy health 8. Enemy energy 0.
And
Enemy
that's
bolster
the
player
most
energy and 1
important.
STR1.
As you can see, now that we're done with the tutorial fight, the energy displays into 1 STR1. And that's because we are the knight, and the knight has those kinds of energy.
Bolster strike comma and STR1 comma end turn.
So we have...
Bolster strike comma surge of intellect. Block comma longsword block surge pulse end turn.
I haven't talked about the deck yet. That's right. Your deck contains a few cards, somewhere around 10 or so, maybe a little bit more than that. By default, you start with 6 copies of your basic attack card, and this is important. This is another big difference between Slay the Spire and this, is that you have 6 copies of your basic attack card, but only 2 copies of block, which, especially when you're the knight, you're probably going to replace block with something else, and that's not a difference. In Slay the Spire, you're definitely going to be doing that too. But you have 2 copies of block, and then you have 2 copies of surges, which are free cards that give energy and do something else. This is a temporary way to gain more energy during battle, in case you need it. So now, for example, and also your starting card, only 1 copy of the starting card.
Bolster surge of intellect.
Which
Bolster
is
strike comma
Bolster
surge of intellect comma gain and 1 focus dot action comma blue comma tooltips. Focus lesson when you foretell. Reveal 1 more card for every 3 stacks. At the start of the round, draw 1 additional card for every 6 stacks.
Okay, this is very confusing. There's a lot of information in this card, but basically, Surge of Intellect gives you 1 intellect for free, and when you play it, it will also gain 1 focus. Focus is not important for us at the moment. It's more a Seeker and Arcanist thing. You don't really have to worry about it too much.
You gain 1 focus stacks. Block comma neutral 1. End
But
turn.
I am going to play it because I need as much energy as I can get, because most of these cards are neutral.
Block Longsword. Player list Longsword. Block end turn.
With this, I can save up some energy. I'm going to
Bolstered Strike comma STR 1 comma deal 4 damage.
use the Bolster Strike card.
Bolstered Strike. Enemy takes 4 damage. 14 left. Enemy gain 1 evasion stacks. Conjure bash. Block comma neutral 1 comma gain for end turn.
And now we have a bash card. Unfortunately, the bash card isn't going to do us much good because the enemy is flying. Therefore, any attack that I use with it is going to miss. So I'm instead going to just simply block.
You gain 3 armor stacks. End turn.
And I have 1 energy left. Now all my other cards...
Longsword. Bash comma deal damage equal to your armor. Free. Dot critical. Hidden interrupt if you are fortified. Dot melee action. Longsword. End turn.
All my other cards are action cards. Now this bash card is important because it will basically act like a body slam in Slay the Spire Ironclad terms. So it will deal damage according to my current armor, which can get insane if you use the right combinations of things. Unfortunately, as I said, all of these cards are melee attacks, which means... Oh, by the way, that's a difference too. There are 4 different kinds of melee attack cards. There's melee attacks, ranged attacks, which is like bows and things, magical attacks, and divine attacks, which are holy energy attacks. And all of these have different characteristics that can be blocked or changed based on statuses and things. Okay, I'm going to end my turn because I want to keep that 1 energy left for myself in case I want to use it later, and there's nothing else that would help me if I were to use any of the remaining cards.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Swoop, you block the damage. Swoop, you take 1 damage. Enemy gain 1 anger stacks. Your turn.
And now the enemy has
End
1
turn.
anger. As you can see by me pressing right arrow.
Block player blessing. Focus 1 stacks when you foretell. Reveal 1 more card for enemy blessing. And range end of turn. Cold gain enemy enchantment. Fly gain 1 evasion every time enemy blessing. Anger 1 stacks increases the damage dealt by actions by 1 per stack of anger. Enemy name sharp claw. Request for the enemy energy settings. Previously played card. Swoop deal damage. 2 damage.
And swoop just deals 2 damage. That's literally all it does.
Set it. Enemy player block comma neutral 1 comma longsword surge of healing potion surge of strength comma gain STR heal 1 health healing potion comma 1 longsword comma up end turn.
I also have a healing potion in my deck. This is not standard. This is an upgradable thing that you can get in the meta progression. Also, in the meta progression, you have the choice, or you have the ability to remove 1 of the 6 basic attacks from your deck at the start. So I only start with 5. This is a controversial choice because sometimes I will make my decks in ways that benefit my basic attacks, and I'd like there to be more of them. But sometimes it's not the case. It very much depends on luck and what kind of cards you get.
Block comma neutral 1 comma gain 3 armor
I'll go with
block
block,
you gain 3 longsword comma up
and
enemy takes 3 damage with left
longsword,
enemy
which
end turn.
gave me even more, and these longswords, by the way,
Longsword comma upgrades +1 end turn.
are upgraded by 1. Again, that's another extra meta progression thing that you can unlock. Each basic attack is upgraded by 1 at the beginning, and this particular card has the keyword upgradable, which means it doesn't just upgrade its damage like most other cards do. In this game, unlike in Slay the Spire, there is no levels of upgrading. Instead, most cards that have damage dealing abilities will simply upgrade their damage by 1 whenever the card is upgraded. And in the case of Longsword specifically, because it has the upgradable keyword, it will also upgrade the number of armor that you get for each damage you deal. Or for any damage that you possibly don't deal, actually. Because it doesn't say gain armor for each damage that is dealt. It says gain 2 armor, or gain 3 armor. So technically, it could be that the attack doesn't actually gain any armor, but you can still, doesn't deal damage, but you still gain armor, I think.
Longsword comma upgrades +1 neutral 1 comma deal star 3 star damage gain 3 armor end turn.
Yeah. I don't need any more armor, though. I'm fully ready to evade basically everything that this thing can do to me, so I'm going to end my turn again. This is a slower battle than with some other classes that have, for example, magic attacks.
Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Cost. You block the damage. You gain 1 bleeding stacks. Swoop. You block the damage.
And these
Enemy
two
gains 1 ammo stacks.
cards,
Your turn. End turn.
these two cards are the only cards that the Raven has.
Launch player enemy.
Let me
Enemy
show you
set
what
previously
Claw
played. Previously
does.
played card. Card deal damage. Colon 1 damage. Dot inflict 1 bleeding.
Inflict 1 bleeding. Bleeding is basically extra damage dealt to you if someone makes a melee action to you.
Settings. Enemy player longsword comma bolster surge of intellect block comma neutral surge of intellect comma gain and 1 focus dot action comma blue comma tooltips focus lesson. You gain 1 focus stacks block player energy and 3 STR 2.
So we have a crap ton of energy now, which means we can use a lot of these cards.
Longsword bolster block comma neutral 1 comma player flick block comma neutral 1 comma gain 3 armor dot action comma you gain 3 armor stacks bolster strike comma NST longsword comma upgrades +1 neutral 1 comma deal star 3 star damage dot gain 3 armor dot upgradable dot melee basic attack comma brown comma tooltips upgradable. This card can be upgraded. Longsword bolster strike comma NSTR 1 comma deal 4 damage dot hit conjure 3 bash dot melee enemy takes 4 damage 7 left enemy gain 1 evasion stacks longsword comp end turn.
Now I'm going to use the longsword to make it go away, so the evasion is gone.
Longsword comma upgrades +1 neutral 1 comma deal enemy has evaded this attack. You gain 3 armor stacks.
And see, even though I evaded the attack, I still gain armor anyway. And since we have some armor, now I can...
Bash comma deal damage equal to your armor 6. Enemy takes 6 damage 1 left. Enemy gain 1 evasion stacks. Longsword comma upgrades +1 player energy STR 2.
Technically, I would have the ability to deal more damage, except the enemy has more evasion because they just flew up in the air again, which means I can't get rid of that last health point, and I'm going to have to contend with just ending my turn and doing it next turn.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Cost. You block the damage. You gain 1 bleeding stacks. Swoop. You take 1 damage. You take 2 damage.
Ow!
Enemy gain 1 anger stacks. Your turn. End turn.
That's the bleeding going into effect there.
Longsword comma upgrades +1
And
neutral
I'll
1
just
comma enemy takes 3 damage -2 left. Victory. Next. Player gold 25. Next. You gain 3 gold. Show character sheet.
Why does it do that? It's not meant to do that. So, when you press next on this screen, you get the card reward ability.
Show deck cards. Player health 92.
You also have health and
Player health
energy.
92. Show skip rewards.
Oh no, it's just health.
Player gold 28.
And gold.
Evangelize comma gain zeal and a random blessing. Firecast dot action comma purple comma tooltips. Firecast a card with firecast is played and moved into the discard pile whenever it gets buried on your turn. Comma blessing of beneficial effects such as regenerate, focus or chain. Comma zeal blessing. Your divine actions deal additional damage for each zeal. At the start of the turn, take damage equal to your zeal.
So, keywords galore. I wish you could do something about this and actually break this down into bits, but unfortunately you can't. So for those of you who are bad at making sense of walls of text, this is going to be a difficult thing because I can't go through it part by part. This element is just one huge thing. This is one of the cards that we are offered, and I particularly don't think it makes sense in this build, so I'm going to scroll down one.
Clarity comma hit 1 comma draw any card dot scholar. Gain dot action comma blue comma tooltips. Scholar. Your deck contains 20 or more cards in total.
So this is an Arcanist card originally. It allows you to draw a card, and if you have more than 20 cards in your deck, you can draw literally anything. This could come in handy, but right now I don't think I see a use for it.
Crylons comma hit 3 comma deal 5 damage. Draw a card dot reduce this card's cost by menu inflict frozen dot magic frost action comma blue comma tooltips. Frozen affliction. Reduce damage dealt by 1 for each stack of frozen. Decreases by 1 for every action played and melts away entirely at the end of the turn.
And Cryolance. Cryolance, again, is a magic ability, and it's based on Frozen. We have no dealings with magic at the moment, and I don't see a point in trying to put any in this deck. So, in this game, you have to be very selective about what kind of cards you put in your deck, or else it becomes a mess. These particular cards that we just saw, don't make much sense in the current set of weapon / starting cards / whatever that I have right now. So I'm going to choose to skip all of these and wait for another battle to come so I can try to get something else.
Player health 90. Show deck. Show character sheet. Skip rewards.
You have to be very selective about what you choose to put in your deck, but, well, it depends. Sometimes I can have decks that are more than 30 cards and it will still work perfectly, unlike in Slay the Spire. So it kind of depends.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your
So,
weapon power. Show deck cards. Player health 92.
We've been beaten up a tiny bit. We've lost a bit of health, but it's fine.
Opportunity treasure. Trapped infested direwolf. Stinner spidery limbs reach for you from amidst the treetops.
Now we have 3 extra enemies, or 3 extra things on the exploration map that we can go to. Now, one difference between this game and Slay the Spire is that opportunities, these...
Opportunity treasure. Traps or treachery await opportunities to sap here if not chosen.
They disappear if not chosen, it says. And this is important. If you decide to go and fight one of the enemies instead of going to the opportunity will be completely gone from the deck. You won't, have the ability to find it again. And for that reason, I am a very opportunity-heavy person. I don't know if this is the best way to play the game, but I like to visit basically any opportunity I can, because quite a lot of the events, if you know what you're doing, can be beneficial. Not all of them, but most of them have some sort of beneficial property to them. Some of the events are based on the current area you're in, and some of them are just general and you can find them anywhere. Let's see what we get this time. I'm going to press A on this.
Hollow tree brigade shimmering reflection in what remains of a long dead tree catches your attention.
Oh great, we're about to battle another one of the same enemy we just dealt with before.
Continue. Hollow tree brigade, look inside and spot various coins glittering between the leaves and twigs. Take the coins. Leave the coins.
Now, this is the part where you have to be educated and you need to know what exactly happens when you do any of these choices. If you leave the coins, nothing will happen. If you take the coins, which I will do, then we'll get gold extra, and gold is very important in this game because you use it for a lot of things, just like in Slay the Spire, except maybe in Slay the Spire it's even more important. That depends. I think they're equally as important in both games.
Take the coins.
You gain gold, but also
you gain 23 gold. Hollow tree brigade, you find 23 gold. Continue. Hollow tree brigade, as you prepare to leave, you suddenly hear louds walking from above as a large black feathered bird descends on you. Continue. Enemy gains flying enchantment. Flare your turn.
Yep, it's one of these again.
Flare health 92.
So now we have to do the battle, and I'm not going to explain as much now as I did before. I hope you can follow along as I do it.
Block comma neutral, longsword comma surge of block comma neutral surge of strength comma
So
comma
surge is
STR 1
first.
act you heal 1 health. Block comma neutral longsword comma upgrades plus 1.
And
Longsword
I'm
comma
going
upgrades plus 1.
to
Neutral 1 comma deal star 3. Enemy takes 3 damage 15
longsword,
left. Block comma neutral 1 comma you gain 3 armor stacks. End turn.
And turn.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing card. Swoop, you block the damage. Swoop, you block the damage. Your turn.
So
End turn.
I
End turn.
blocked all the attacks. Now, we have the benefit of this enemy not having the enraged aura, which means it will not be stronger over time, which makes it more likely that I will not take damage.
Surge of it, bolstered, longsword, healing potion, surge of intellect, comma, gain, you gain 1 focus stacks, bolstered, longsword, bolstered, strike, comma, and STR 1, comma, deal, end turn, healing, longsword, player, less, healing, longsword, bolstered, player energy, and 2 STR 2.
So we have 4 energy, which means...
Bolstered, strike, comma, and STR 1, comma, deal 4 damage, enemy takes 4 damage, 11 left, healing, longsword, comma, upgrade, choose energy type to play this card, hit current 1.
Now,
STR current 2.
it's asking me what kind of energy I want to use to play this card. This can be helpful sometimes because there are specific cards in your hand maybe that are only able to use one of the 2 energy types you have access to. In this case it doesn't matter, but in some cases it will. So it will prompt you which kind of energy you want to use. If you don't have manual energy selection on in the accessibility settings, you will never be offered this choice. And sometimes the game will choose and assume wrong on what kind of energy you want to spend on playing a specific kind of card, and this can break your hand strategies depending on what you're doing. So sometimes having this pop-up appear and ask you is very important.
Enemy has evaded this attack. You gain longsword, comma, upgrades plus
I
1.
got
Neutral, healing
armor,
potion, end
which
turn.
means-
Healing, longsword, dash, comma, deal damage equal to your armor, free. Enemy takes 3 damage 8 left. Enemy gain 1 evasion stacks. Player energy, and 1 STR 1.
I have even more
Healing, longsword, player stack, healing, end turn.
energy, but I can't use it because the last longsword card is just going to make it evade the attack, so I won't even bother.
Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Cost. You block the damage. You gain 1 bleeding stacks. Swoop. You block the damage.
I'm blocking everything,
Your turn.
which is helpful.
End turn.
Soon I won't be able to.
Longsword, block, comma, bolstered, longsword, comma, upgrades, bolstered, strike, comma, and player energy, and 2 STR 2. Longsword, comma, block, comma, bolstered, strike, comma, and STR 1, comma, deal 4 damage, hit, conjure a free match, melee action, comma, enemy takes 4 damage, 4 left, block, comma, neutral 1, comma, gain 3 armor, choose energy type to play this card, you gain 3 armor, block, comma, neutral 1, longsword, comma, enemy has evaded this, longsword, comma, upgrades, dash, comma, deal damage equal to your armor, player energy, STR 1. Block, longsword, dash, comma, deal damage equal to your armor, enemy takes 6 damage minus 2, victory, next. Player
And
gold
there we
51,
go.
player gold 51. Next. You gain 3 golds, show player health 93.
I have a habit of checking my health at the end of battle, just in case I need to. Surge of Strength, by the way, which gives you strength for free when you play the card, heals you for 1, which is what just happened that one time, and that's why I have 93 instead of 92 health now.
Performance near comma and STR1 comma spend all your energy and inflict that much burning. Frenzy also gain that much bolster. Action comma common comma purple comma tooltips. Burning affliction at the end of the turn. Take 1 damage per stack of burning comma bolster. Blessing increases health received during combat by 1 per stack of bolster.
That's kind of cool.
Performance near comma and STR1 comma spend all your energy and inflict that much burning. Frenzy also gain that much bolster. Action comma common comma purple comma tooltips. Burning a flip layer goal 54.
But also, spend all my energy. I don't know. Maybe not right now. It sounds like a cool card, but I don't think I have the ability to use it right now. Instead, there's another one of these. This can also be quite helpful. Basically, you can play a basic attack from your discard pile by taking damage. Right now, I think the most helpful choice in this particular case is a second copy of Bolster Strike. So I'm going to go with that.
Add Bolster Strike to deck.
You have to arrow down to the add buttons below the card text to actually do this. I don't know why they did it this way. Don't ask, but they did.
Exploration. Stinger spider limbs reach for you from amidst the treetops.
Now we have
use weapon power for Wild Tusk Boar. This blocks this path and does not
Wild
intend to move.
Tusk Boar.
Shrine strange statues and
Shrine.
Stinger spider limbs reach for you from amidst the Shrine Wild Tusk Boar. This blocks the use weapon power fortified. Wild Tusk Boar. This blocks this path and does not intend to move.
The Wild Tusk Boars are the most basic enemy and they don't really do much, so let's fight against them.
Settings. Enemy name your turn. Enemy name Wild Longsword comma upgrades +1. Neutral 1 comma deal star free end
As
turn.
you will see, if I arrow to the right,
enemy name Wild Tusker. Enemy health 28. Enemy energy Longsword end
they
turn.
have 28 health, but they literally do not have anything else to their name. No status, no enchantment, nothing. They are your run-of-the-mill, standard, basic enemy. So let's kill it.
Longsword healing. Longsword surge of intellect. Block comma neutral 1. Surge of intellect comma. You gain 1 focus player blessed enemy. Player block comma neutral 1. You gain Longsword healing potion. Longsword. Enemy takes 3. Longsword players. Longsword. Enemy takes 3 end turn.
And I gain a crap ton of armor, which I can't use right now.
End turn. Your turn.
They have Growl, which gains 1 anger, but I'm not afraid of that.
Surge of Longsword, surge of strength, comma, gain, you deal 1 health. Enter Longsword, block, bolster player, block, bolster strike, enemy takes 4 damage, 18 left, player energy, STR 2.
I can...
Longsword, upgrades, plus enemy takes 3 damage, block, Longsword, enemy takes 3 damage, back, enemy takes 6 damage, 6 left, block, enter, show character, enter.
Oh, they only have 6 health left, and I have so much armor that there's no way they can hit me.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards, stop, you block the damage. Growl, enemy gain 1 anger stacks. Your turn. End turn. Bolster, Longsword, block, neutral 1, gain, Longsword, upgrades, +1. Enemy takes 3 damage, bolster, block, enemy takes 4 damage, -1 left, victory, next. Next. You gain 4 golds, show player health 94.
And there we go, took absolutely no damage.
Polish comma neutral 1, gain 3 armor for each type of energy you have. 0. Gain a blessing based on the energy spent. Action comma purple tooltips. Armor when dealt damage. Take 1 less damage per stack of armor. Armor fades at the start of the turn. Anger. Blessing increases the damage dealt by actions by 1 per stack of anger. Evasion. Blessing when dealt melee damage. Reduce the first damage taken to 0. Then decrease evasion by 1. Evasion fades at the start of the turn. Focus. Blessing when you foretell. Reveal 1 more card for every 3 stacks. At the start of the round, draw 1 additional card for every 6 stacks. Ward. Blessing whenever you gain an affliction.
Why is it telling you all of these?
Fades at the start of the turn.
I don't understand. Oh, it's telling you what kind of blessing you get for each one. So if you spend intellect, you gain focus. If you spend strength, you gain armor. If you spend dexterity, you gain evasion. If you spend holy, you gain ward, I guess. This is not important for this current build. This is more important if you are very invested in int plus str plus holy at once. I'm not one of those right now, so I'm going to pass on this card.
Divine Inspiration, and STR1, delve a non-unique divine cards and play it for free. Unique action, purple, tooltips. Unique, you can only play 1 card with his name for combat. All enchantments are unique.
This is another way in which you can play holy cards, but I'm not really that interested.
Battlecry, gain STR and rally. Frenzy. Draw cards. Charges.
Now
this. Action, red, tooltips. Charges. Cards with charges can be played X number of times per combat before they become depleted and are removed from combat. Frenzy. Frenzy is active when you've taken damage during your turn. Rally. Blessing. Whenever your opponent plays a card, gain health equal to your rally, then lower your rally by 1.
Even if you don't understand all the keywords, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is this card is almost like an extra surge of strength with benefits, except you can only use it twice per battle. It's free. It gives you energy.
Battlecry, gain STR and rally. Frenzy.
And
cards.
rally.
Add Battlecry to deck.
And if you happen to have taken damage during your turn, which some cards will cause you to take damage, just like the Ironclad and Slay the Spire or whatever, then you also draw an extra card. This is insanely useful, if not only just to gain more energy, So I'm going to take it.
Add battle cry to deck. Exploration settings. Stinger spider. Stinger
It's
spider. Use weapon
meant
power.
to be a
Fortifying weapon. Use
warrior
weapon power. Show
card,
character
by
sheet.
the way.
Use Stinger campsite. Infested direwolf. Airy map campsite. Brief respite from the barrels of adventure.
So now we have
Stinger spider. Spidery limbs reach for you from a
Stinger
mist of
spider, campsite, or infested direwolf. I happen to know that the infested direwolf isn't too hard of an enemy to destroy, but the stinger spider is probably going to be easier, so I'll just go with that for now. We are heavily armored, so it's very unlikely that they're going to hit me. Also, you could technically use the campsite, but I'm almost fully healed, so there's no point. Not yet, at least. So stinger spider it is.
Use stinger spider. Enemy gains thorns enchantment. Enemy your turn. Enemy enchantment. Thorns whenever you take damage. Enemy enchantment. Thorns whenever you take damage. Longsword combo. Enemy enchantment. Thorns whenever you take damage. Inflict 1 bleeding.
Whenever you take damage, inflict 1 bleeding. This can be devastating if you don't have any way of protecting against hits. So it can stack up on you, and it can become a problem. Now we are both I guess you could say a heavy hitter, and we have a bunch of armor, so this doesn't really apply to us as much.
Longsword healing. Surge of strength. Heal 1 health. Surge of intellect. Comic. You gain enemy. Block combo neutral. You gain 3 clear. Longsword combo. Enemy takes 3 damage end turn.
Now you can hear that I gained bleeding from that hit that I just did, but it doesn't matter because there's no way that it can hurt me. Bleeding only takes effect if you actually manage to take damage in the first place. Since I have armor and the enemy doesn't have enough damage power to actually deal enough damage to get through my armor, there is nothing they can do, and the bleeding will just kind of stay there.
Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Your turn.
In fact, it didn't have...
End turn.
I didn't mention this. Enemies have energy and cards in a deck just like we do in this game. There is no real intent like in Slay the Spire. You can't tell what they're about to do before they do it. Sometimes, rarely, it is possible that their hand contains only cards, and their hands are tiny, by the way. They usually have like 1 or 2 cards in their hand. Usually, sometimes there are specific cases where the cards that they have in their hands are too expensive for them to actually use any of them. So they have to skip a turn and not actually do anything. This is one of those cases.
Longsword, bolstered strike, comp, layer energy, hit 3 STR, 1.
I can do a lot with that.
Longsword, bolstered, enemy phase, longsword, combo, upgrades, longsword, enemy phase 3, longsword, enemy phase 3, longsword, combo, enemy phase 3, bash, longsword, I don't have enough energy to play this card. Bash, player, bash, combo, deal damage equal to your armor, 9, enemy takes 9 damage, -1, victory, next.
And there we go.
Show character, next.
That was as easy as can be.
You gain 3 gold, select show player health 95.
I specifically chose this class and this combination to make it easy for myself so I can show you roughly how the game is meant to be played without too much difficulty.
Call element, attune to an element of your choice, magic action, blue.
This is a very magic-centric card that really doesn't apply to us at the moment. Elemental stuff like burning, freezing, and lightning are a thing, but they're mostly meant for magic users. There are some night builds that you can use that will use magic cards, but this isn't one of them.
Chaos armor, in STR1, gain 3 armor, corrupted. Inflict a random X action, common, purple, tooltips. X's are powerful effects that debilitate foes in different ways. Corrupted. You are corrupted if 5 or more corruptions are present in your deck. Hand and slasher discard pile. Armor, when dealt damage. Take 1 less damage per stack of armor. Armor fades at the start of the turn.
This doesn't apply to us either because we are the good guys in this particular case. Now, you can play as a corrupted knight. There are builds where you can gain corruptions and go insane, but this is not that. So, this doesn't apply, and I'd rather not pick it up.
Dark Halo, in STR1, life 1, is combat. Whenever you gain aggro while corrupted, gain that much health. Memorize enchantment, common,
Same
player
with
health
this
95.
one. I'm just going to skip this completely because this only works if you're corrupted. Otherwise, it doesn't really do much. Now, you heard it say enchantment, and also this combat, whenever, whatever. That is important. Enchantments are your powers from Slay the Spire, basically. The types of cards in this game are actions, and enchantments, and there might be other, and items. Items are like potion cards and other such things. Enchantments are, you play them one time into the battlefield, and they will be in play for the rest of combat until one of you dies. And there's a special thing that we'll hopefully get to where you will see that owning and using enchantments is a very big part of this game and your deck strategy.
Player Elf 90 show deck. Show carrot skip rewards.
But I'm going to skip all of these because I don't need any of them.
Exploration. Use weapon power forward. Use weapon top show deck. Player Elf 95.
We are fully healed. We're going pretty quickly through this, as much as my explanation will allow.
The Traveler Ace Ranger approaches on horseback. Mini-boss corrupted Tusker Azor colon enraged end of turn colon. Shrine Ace strange statue stands out from its surroundings.
Now we have a choice. We can interact with this.
The Traveler Ace Ranger approaches on horseback.
This is what is known as an event. More like I would call it an area event. Basically, it's not an opportunity because it's not random. It is scripted to be a part of this particular area. And we will meet this character later, so I think it's best that we talk to them now.
Stranger on horseback. A man on the back of a horse that has clearly seen better days starts to gain on you. Continue. Julius Stelford greetings, fellow traveler. He answers, slowing his horse to a trot. We see Julius Stelford is not the only one who recognizes an opportunity when they see it.
Julius Belthorpe likes to talk in the second person, like the plural for some reason. I don't know why he does that, but he does anyway.
Ignore the man. Who is Julius Belthorpe? Bring him back. Bring him back.
Now you can choose to, in a different conversation things here. I'm going to choose who is Julius Belthorpe just so you can hear what it says.
Who is Julius Belthorpe? Julius Belthorpe, who is the man asks indignantly. Why we are Julius Belthorpe, of course, only the third most earning merchant of the Emporium this quarter, my uninformed friend, and with his war just brimming with opportunity.
So basically, he is the kind of can't really hold himself to battle, but is trying very hard to make a living out of the war kind of thing.
Continue. Julius Belthorpe, the man pauses dramatically. We can feel our margin growing by the minute. Think of all those soldiers just desperate for our merchandise.
Yup. He is using the war as an excuse to kind of make his stuff go insane.
Do you have anything for sale? Your margin has grown enough. Your margin has grown enough.
Now you can choose that. I'm going to choose do you have anything for sale? It will not let me, but you'll see what he says.
Do you have anything for sale? Julius Belthorpe, alas, my eager customer, our stock is waiting for us in Canto, but be sure to visit once you waded your way through these woods. He adds before lifting his pretentious hat. Continue. Julius Belthorpe, for now, we bid you good day and do remember the name Julius Belthorpe should you need any supplies in your no doubt well-intended endeavors.
We'll meet this person a couple times later down the line, so this is very important that we meet him now.
Leave. Exploration. Player Elf 95.
So now that we've had that conversation, let's continue.
Shrine A strange statue stands out from its surroundings. And an ambusher, I'll take your gold and your life. Campsite A brief respite from the perils of adventure.
We have a shrine. The shrine I'm not going to interact with just yet. Let's do the battle with the bandit.
And an ambusher, I'll take your gold and your life.
I don't think it tells you, but this one is going to have first strike as an aura, which means it'll attack first.
Enemy gains first strike enchantment. Enemy enchantment. First strike this creature attacks first in enemy turn. Enemy enchantment. First strike this creature. Enemy playing cards. Vial of venom. Enemy gains vial of venom enchantment. Enemy enchantment. First strike your turn.
And sure enough. So, Vial of Venom, let me just show you.
Search of enemy setting. Previously played cards. Vial of Venom, your next hit inflicts an additional 3 poison.
An additional 3 poison. Poison is quite different in this game. It does not work the way it does in Slay the Spire. If we get hit by it, I'll show you what it does.
Setting. Enemy. Surge of strength, you heal 1 health. Loms of battle cry. Loms block common. Loms battle cry. Gain
hey, battle cry.
You gain 1 rally stacks. Loms or block Loms or player blessing. Loms block Loms or enemy takes 3 damage. Loms or enemy takes 3 damage. 19 end turn.
I don't even need to block anymore. I am ready.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Staff. You heal 1 health. You block the damage. Your turn. End turn.
That healing was done
End
by
turn.
the rally that I got from the battle cry card, which happens when the opponent plays an action.
Loms or healing potion. Block common. Loms or surge of intellect. Gain it. You enemy. Loms or player energy. 2 STR. 3. Loms or upgrades plus enemy takes 3. Block Loms or enemy takes 3 damage for healing potion. End turn.
I'm not using as much energy as I should, so I have a bunch of it stockpiled basically for anything that I'd need it for later.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Vial of venom. Low kick. You block the damage. Your turn.
And because we are heavily armored and it didn't manage to hit me, the Vial of Venom doesn't actually do anything. Also, it didn't make the noise because the enchantment is technically already active.
Bolstered, Longsword, Bolstered, Surge of Strength, Healing Poke, Surge of Strength, you heal 1 health. Bolstered Strike, enemy takes 4 damage, 9 left. Longsword, upgrade, choose energy type to play this card. ST cancel. Bolstered Strike, enemy takes 4 damage, 5 left. Longsword, upgrades plus 1, choose energy type. Enemy takes 3 damage, 2, and healing, bash, enemy takes 3 damage, -1, victory. Next.
And with that,
Player
we
roll
didn't
61.
even get to see the poison activate.
Next, you gain 3 gold. Show
We are
deck cards for
done.
player health 95. Retaliate, STR1, deal 5 damage. Gain STR and interrupt if you were hit with a melee action. Last turn, melee action, common, red, tooltips. Adapt 0/1. Cards with available adaptation slots can be adapted to gain additional effects when played. These effects range from additional damage to a unique bonus whenever the attack hits your foe. Interrupt, remove the target's remaining energy and ends their channeling effects. If a monster gets interrupted, it will replace a deadly card with a regular card.
Huh. I didn't know that this card had an adaptation slot. That's interesting. I'm not interested in that right now.
Seismic Slam, STR2, delay damage. Gain STR whenever it is shuffled into your deck. Rampage, melee action, red, tooltips.
This
Rampage,
is
cards with Rampage, gain
definitely
double the damage bonus
not,
from anger. Player gold 64.
not suitable for this particular deck. This has the Rampage keyword, which is very cool and all, but it's not made for this particular kind of build, so I'm not going to pick it up.
Side Chrome's recipe, and 1 is combat. After you play 4 cursed cards, create a random potion. Memorize side player gold
And this
64.
one, even more unsuitable, in fact. Technically, I guess I could pick up the Rampage one, the Seismic Slam, but also we don't have any other way of boosting anger, and it would just be wasted. Also, it costs 2 strength energy, which sometimes I don't have. So I'm probably going to skip again.
Skip show character, skip rewards.
Now, you might be saying to yourself, how am I going to get anywhere if I don't get any cards right now? The answer is, I might not, but I've learned that if I spend so much time putting random cards in my deck that I'm not using as optimally as I could be, it's just going to weigh me down.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your weapon power to opportunity treasure. Campsite. Player gold 64.
Unfortunately, no matter what I'll do, one of the opportunities is going to disappear no matter if I want it or not, because there's 2 of them showing. So I'll click 1.
Opportunity treasure. Small fortune. You spot something glittering in the shadows. You gain 12 gold. Small leave. Small fortune. You find 12 gold. Leave.
And that is the most basic event. That's just you gain gold.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your weapon power to start your next
Helpful.
combat. Mini boss corrupted tusker has campsite. Shrine strange camps. Mini boss. Use
I
weapon
don't
power
know
fortified
about
weapon. Use your
you,
weapon power
but
to show character.
I think we are ready for the mini-boss, so let's do it.
Use mini boss corrupted tusker has oracle and enraged end of turn. Gain 1 anger. This beast blocks this path and does not intend to move.
Let's go. I feel confident. I might take a bit of a hit here, but it shouldn't be too bad.
Set enemy gains healthy enchantment. Enemy your turn. Enemy blessing. Enraged end of turn. Gain 1 anger. Enemy blessing. Enraged longsword upgrades. Bolstered block bolstered battle cry enemy battle. You gain 1 rally stack. Block bolstered strike player energy. Hits 1 STR 2. Longsword bolstered strike block bolstered player blessing. Bolstered block bolstered strike and ST. Enemy takes 4 damage 31. Longsword upgrades. Enemy takes 3 damage. Bolstered strike block neutral 1 gain. You gain 3 armor and bolstered strike and ST. Bash player bash deal damage equal to your armor. Enemy takes 6 damage 22 end turn. Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Dice. You deal 1 health. You block the damage. Dice. You block the damage.
Hey, good.
Enemy gains 1 anger stacks. Your turn. End turn.
The fact that we basically have what is equivalent to Iron Waves in Slay the Spire or some other kind of card like that as our basic attack is helping us basically be overpowered at this point in the game. It won't be like this forever though. You'll see.
Healing post longsword block common surge of strength. You heal 1 health. Longsword enemy takes 3 damage. Block longsword enemy takes 3 damage. Enemy players block common neutral 1 heal end turn.
I don't even need to use the other block card.
Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Skewer. You block the damage. Enemy gains 1 anger stacks. Your turn. End turn. Longsword surge of intellect. You get longsword battle cry player less battle cry. You gain 1 rally. Longsword enemy takes 3 damage. Longsword enemy takes 3 players. Longsword enemy takes 3 damage. 7 left. Player status armor. End turn.
Sometimes the end turn button and the rest of the stuff on the top of the screen disappears for a bit after you've played cards. So if you're going fast like that, you might need to wait a bit before it shows up and you can press up to get to it. I don't know why it's like that.
Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Dice. You deal 1 health. You block the damage. Dice. You block the damage. Enemy gains 1 anger stacks. Your turn. End turn. Longsword bolstered strike block neutral 1 player energy. Hits 1 STR 3. Longsword bolstered strike and STR 1 enemy takes 4 damage 3 left. Conjure block bolstered strike choose energy type. Enemy takes 4 damage -1 left. Victory. Next.
And with
Player
that,
76.
we have not only defeated the mini-boss, which really didn't pose much of a threat, but we've also leveled up.
Next.
There is experience in this game, and you level up your character as you go. And after leveling up, you get to
Level up, pick a talent, reroll survival instincts.
pick a talent. Talents are basically the, I guess you could say, relics of this game. Almost, not quite, but sort of. They are nowhere near as dramatic as the Slay the Spire ones. And that's one of the things that makes this game more rewarding for me, personally, is that there aren't very many downsides for leveling up and gaining things and especially talents. It is very rare that one of them or any of them will have a side effect, if you will. Also, you are not required to defeat like elite enemies or whatever to gain these. You just level up by defeating more and more normal enemies, and they might get you enough XP to level up to higher levels as well. So, what do we have?
Survival instincts heal 5% of your maximum health at the start of combat.
That might be helpful.
Reroll weapon training.
As you can hear, there's a reroll button for each one of these. There are 3 of them.
Weapon training reduces the cooldown of your weapon by 1 combat. This effect can reduce the cooldown below 1. Reroll magical ornaments. Magical ornaments basic attacks deal 2 additional damage. This talent can be taken multiple times.
This could be helpful, but I'm kind of wondering which one I should choose. In fact, before I do that, let me reroll
reroll weapon training.
This one a few times, see if we get anything that I might like more.
Reroll 4 rerolls remaining. Conjure cards deal 2 additional damage. This talent can be taken multiple times.
I don't think that's going to help us much.
Reroll conjurer. Reroll 3 rerolls remaining. Devotion gain access to holy cards. Add a prayer card to your deck.
Not for this particular class, or this particular build. I don't
Reroll
want
devotion.
this.
Reroll 2 rerolls remaining. Gather following gain access to holy cards. Add an evil summons to your deck.
No.
Reroll gather following. Reroll 1 reroll righteous charge gain access to holy cards. Whenever you start a turn below 50% of your health, gain holy.
Whoa, that's kind of cool.
Reroll righteous charge. Reroll 0 magic sanctify your actions inflict additional damage equal to your level to undead and demons. 2 dot.
A lot of these are based on like if you have holy or divine energy in your build, and right now I don't, and I'm not envisioning to have any. So I'm just gonna go with
magical ornaments basic attacks deal 2 additional damage. This talent can be taken multiple times.
one. By the way, the reroll buttons have disappeared. I like to have a habit of rerolling as many times as I can. Again, you get not free, but extra talent rerolls, depending on how far you've gotten in the reward track, the meta progression with the fate shards. So there's a lot of like if you play this your first time through with a completely clean save, you will not see this. Exactly, you'll have less abilities, less stuff. I am going to choose
magical ornaments basic attacks deal 2 additional damage. You gain 5 gold. Select the show characters, show deck, card player elf 95.
And now, let's see what card rewards we have for this battle.
Halo of Wrath, STR1, is combat. Inflict 3 burning whenever you bury a card. Memorize divine enchant, add Halo of Wrath to deck.
This is definitely a holy kind of build card, and I'm not interested in it.
Haunting Wrath, STR1, inflict 10 clear dot repeat for each corruption in hand. 0 dot swap dot corruption action, add Haunting Wrath to deck.
I didn't know that was even a thing. Not applicable here, though.
Corrupt magic, STR1, life 1, convert a foe's blessing into a random affliction, dot corruption action. Player elf, show deck,
As
show
you
characters,
can hear, sometimes it says life 1. That means you need to spend your health to play the card, which is extra kind of energy. I'm not interested in any of these 3 cards, so let's keep going.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Shrine A, stray campsite A, brief opportunity treasure. Traps or treachery awaits opportunity to
There's
save
another opportunity. Let's click on it.
Fallen tree, your path is blocked by a large fallen tree with dense bushes land. Fallen tree, your path is blocked by a large fallen tree with dense bushes land into path on both sides. Go around.
Now you can sometimes choose to climb over or kill the tree, push the tree aside if you're the warrior with 2 strength. There are class-specific choices. If you're a specific class, it is possible that the event that you are currently in has extra choices based on what kind of class you are. If you're a rogue, you can climb over it. If you're a warrior, you can push it aside. I am neither, so I have to contend with going around and...
Fallen tree, as you start to move around the tree, you hear an angry snorting behind you. Continue. Fallen tree, near the roots of the fallen tree stands a massive boar. It growls angrily at you before charging in your direction.
It's Tusk Boar time again.
Fight.
Now, even if I did get the ability to choose one of the other options, I would still take this because it's a free battle, free XP, free card reward. It's a win-win. So let's go.
Show character sheet. Show character turn. Show character sheet.
We've already battled one of these before, so I'll just finish this quickly.
Block combat, longsword, surge of skill, one, longsword, enemy takes, longsword, enemy takes 5 players, longsword, enemy takes 5 damage, 13 left, you gain 3 armor, end turn.
Now, as you can hear, the enemies take 5 damage, but I only gain 3 armor. That's because the magic ornaments only boosts the damage, and the card says gain 3 armor. It doesn't say gain armor based on damage dealt. But this, as I said, does mean that if the card doesn't actually hit for any reason, I will still gain armor anyway.
End turn, enemy turn. Enemy playing cards, growl, enemy gain 1 anger stacks, end turn.
They cannot do anything to me.
Longsword, block combat, surge of it, longsword, battle, longsword, surge of it. You gain 1 battle cry, you gain 1 wrath, enemy, longsword, enemy takes, longsword, combat, end turn, longsword, enemy takes 5 damage, players, block combat, end turn. End turn, enemy turn. Enemy playing cards, stop, you deal 1 health, you block the damage. Growl, enemy gain 1 anger stacks.
You can do whatever you want to me. You are dead.
Healing, bolsters, surge of strength, you heal, surge, bolster, strike, surge, you gain bolsters, enemy takes 4 damage, minus 1 left, victory, next. Player gold 81. Next, you gain 3 gold, show player health 100.
And we also gain extra health when we level up. That's another important thing. You do not, however, heal to maximum when you level up. That's important to know. You get extra max health, but you do not heal.
Dark Inquiry, life 1, for L3, corrupted. Gain 4 elf $. Draw a card, corruption, action, common, blue, tooltips. Player gold 84.
I don't even want to talk about foretell right now. Foretell is a specific keyword that is mostly a seeker and an arcanist thing. I would rather not go into it. It's its own unique thing.
Dark Gilded Gauntlets, neutral 1, activate the gain a random blessing with stats equal to this card's durability. 4 durability, equipment, rare, brown, tooltips. Unique, you can only play 1 card with its name for combat. All enchantments are unique. Durability, the number of times equipment can be activated before it's depleted for the remainder of combat. Blessing, beneficial effects such as regenerate, focus, or chain. Equipments can be activated to gain their effect once per round. Once their durability runs out, they are removed for the remainder of the combat.
Yeah, so this is an equipment card. It's the first time we've seen anything like this. Equipment cards are cards that you play, and then you can use them once per turn by clicking on them in the status area. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have it in your hand or whatever. They go in your status area, and then you can click them. You can even click on them after equipping them on that first turn as well. So in this case, this one will gain a random blessing with X number of stacks based on the durability of the card.
Battle broth, create an ingredient. Whenever you enter a stance, return this to hand. Charges 5/5. Add Gilded Gauntlets to deck.
This is based on the cooking extra side thing that the warrior has as a possible set of builds. I don't want to get into it. We're not doing cooking builds right now. So I will choose
add Gilded Gauntlets to deck.
This. Now it's not the most important thing, but it could possibly become in handy. Like, for example, if I gain Reflect, or Evasion, or, I don't know, Anger, or some other card, some other blessing effect, it could become quite helpful sometimes. So let's do it.
Exploration settings. Set oxidants of things getters underneath the foliage.
You know that you've managed to get far enough in the exploration deck when you see specific kinds of enemies. This Toxindid, or whatever it is one of them. If you manage to beat this, the boss will show up.
Campsite A brief respite from the barrels of adventure. Opportunity treasure. Traps or treachery awaits opportunities to sap your if not chosen. The Forge A large forge burns with a bright blue flame. Lick of the fire promising. The Forge A large forge burns with a bright blue flame. Lick of the fire promising arcane rewards in return for mundane weapons. Warm your hands by the fire.
You can either heal here.
Upgrade a basic attack.
Upgrade a basic attack.
Throw a weapon into the fire.
Throw a weapon in the fire, which literally just gets rid of it.
Leave.
I am going to upgrade a basic attack.
Longsword upgraded. Longsword upgraded. Exploration. Use weapon. Show character sheet.
And now one of my longswords has +2 instead of +1. You can't choose which, but it just does one of them.
Campsite A brief respite from the barrels of adventure.
Now, if I were to have warmed my hands, that would have given me +10 healing. It would have healed me for 10. But also, you start with 1 burning at the beginning of combat. Again, you don't know this until you do it. Burning is something we haven't encountered before. It's like damage that is dealt to you unconditionally at the end of your turn. When you press end turn, you get dealt X number of damage based on your burning.
Toxin and something skitters underneath the foliage. Shrine A strange statue stands out from its surroundings. Toxic campsite A brief respite from toxic. Shrine A strange statue stands out from its surroundings.
I'm going to use the shrine. Shrines are very different in what they can do. It depends. Some of them are quite helpful, and some of them are kind of random, and thus I usually don't like to interact with those. Let's see what kind this one is.
Shrine of Radiance, the angelic features of the stone statue tower out from its pristine pedestal. Above its brilliantly carved head, both hands reach for the darkened skies, its fingers forming a perfect triangle while colorful light stands over its marble features.
So, this one is actually very beneficial, as you'll see.
Investigate.
You can gain even more information, but I don't want to do that. Instead,
infuse the energy of a card.
Infuse the energy of the card will upgrade it even more, but I don't want this particular option. I want the next one.
Add a surge card.
Add a surge card. This is very cool because this will allow me to gain even more energy, and I want to add...
Select card. Surge of intellect, gain and one focus dot action,
intellect.
Focus,
now,
lesson, surge of dexterity, gain,
you can also add surge of dexterity to your hand.
Surge of strength, surge of intellect, gain and one
I
focus dot action,
don't see why you want to do this.
Lesson, when you foretell, reveal one more card for every card added. Card added. Surge of intellect, gain and one focus dot action, focus, lesson, when you foretell.
I'm going to press Control on my keyboard to stop it from doing that. When you get a screen like this, when it says card added, this screen will show the card in question, and you have to press A once more to dismiss that.
Exploration, show deck,
so now we have 2 surges of intellect, 1 surge of strength, and 1 battle cry, which means a lot more ways to gain energy. Now, I am preparing for times when I won't have as much energy as I need. I know this will happen, and thus I'm getting more ways of gaining energy, so I hopefully will have enough.
Infested direwolf, the airy mass of muzzle growls menacingly. Campsite, a brief toxin and something skitters underneath the foliage. Campsite, a brief infested direwolf, the airy mass of muzzle growls menacingly. Then. Settings. Enemy name, your turn. Enemy name, infested direwolf. Enemy name, infested direwolf. Enemy, surge of intellect, combat, end turn.
This might be a little bit of a problem. They don't start with any statuses, but one of their cards is quite annoying.
Surge of intellect. You get battle, longsword, battle cry, you gain, longsword, player, enemy takes 5, longsword, enemy takes 6, players, longsword, enemy takes 5 damage, 12, player status, armor,
as you
player
heard,
status,
one of them took 6 damage instead of 5. That's because of the upgrade.
Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Light eyes, you deal 1 health, you block the damage. Light eyes, you block the damage.
Oh, it didn't do the thing that it was,
End turn.
that it usually does. By the way...
Long player enemy setting, previously played cards. Light deal damage, -1 to damage, -3 damage. Setting, enemy, long player energy, and 2 longsword, build gauntlet, block, neutral, surge of intellect. You gain player, you deal 1 health. Build gauntlet, block, neutral, 1, gain 3 player equipment. Build gauntlet, 4 stacks activate to gain a random.
So now I have the ability to use this, and I will.
You gain 4 momentum stacks.
Momentum is useless to me. It's a way of drawing extra cards, and gaining momentum is a way to draw more cards in your turn, but I can't do much with it.
Block, longsword, upgrade. Enemy takes 5 damage, 7 left. You gain end turn. Show player health 100.
And I'm still fully healed.
Player energy, and 2 STR 1. Block, end turn. End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Light eyes, you block the damage. Light eyes, you take 1 damage.
Oh, I actually got hit.
Your turn.
And they didn't
end
do
turn.
The thing. Wow. They did not use the card they're known for. There's a card called Prowl, which gains evasion, and makes the next attack they have deal extra 3 damage. They didn't use it. Evasion would be a little bit of annoyance if they were to have used it, because I would have had to waste a couple of cards.
Bolsters, end turn.
But
bolsters, longsword, healing, block,
I don't have to.
bolsters, strike, and STR1. Enemy takes 4 damage, 3 left. Conjure, colon, dash. Bolsters, strike, enemy takes 4 damage, -1 left. Victory. Next.
I win.
Next.
That was insanely easy.
You gain 4 gold. Show player health 99.
I lost 1 damage. I lost 1 point of health.
Herald, face healing, Herald, perform 1 and gain a random type of energy. Deplete, draw a card. Charges, 3/3, player gold 88.
I don't want to even get into how performances work or anything like that. This is useless for this particular build.
Herald, face healing, and STR1, gain 2 health and holy. Firecast, divine action, common, purple, tooltips. Firecast, a card with Firecast is blade moved into the discard pile whenever it gets buried on your turn. Berry, remove the top card of your deck from combat.
Holy cards have this very unique tendency to have Firecast on them, which means you can bury cards, which basically means they are exhausted in Slay the Spire terms. But when they're exhausted, they're also played, basically, or buried, I should say. I don't want to confuse the terminology even more than I already have.
Stroke of misery, and STR1, make a basic attack, inflict 1 Dane, action, purple, tooltips. Dane, affliction, whenever you gain an affliction, gain an additional stack for each point of Dane. Player health,
now,
show deck,
I'm not
show character sheet,
using anything that will give afflictions to my enemies, but Bane, basically what that does is it will make the amount of stacks per affliction 1 higher than it normally would be. So say I do something that inflicts, 2 burning, then if they have a Bane on them, then it will anything that would technically inflict 2 burning will inflict 3 instead. This is a very, very powerful thing to be held by enemies, though. They can go insane with it sometimes. None of this makes much sense to this particular deck, so I'm going to skip again.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use weapon power for campsite. Brief opportunity. Toxin. Something. Opportunity.
And
treasure.
more
Treasure.
opportunity.
Fallen soldier, a skeleton, and highly oxidized, yet impressive armor sits against fallen soldier, a skeleton, and highly oxidized, yet impressive armor sits against the nearby stone. As you walk past, an ivory hand suddenly grasps at your weapon. He is a hollow owl escapes from the index's broken jaw. Offer the warrior a final salute. Remove a basic attack. Give it a weapon. Push the skeleton off.
Now,
push the remove. Offer the warrior a final salute.
Because I have strength energy, and I am technically either a knight or a warrior can do this. Maybe a hunter can as well, but I'm not sure. I can do this, and this is a very helpful thing too, because it will upgrade all of my basic attacks at once.
Fallen soldier, the skeletal figure seems confused for a moment, then nods solemnly, rising the bony hand to its battered skull before its lifeless body stops moving once more. Continue. Longsword upgraded, 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 use weapon power.
Why does it say that so many times? I don't know, but it upgraded every single one of them.
Toxin and something skitter, campsite, brief respite, toxin and campsite, brief respite from the barrels of adventure.
We have nowhere else to go except a couple of campsites, and the toxin dit, or whatever that is. I don't have any reason to use the campsites right now, so let's battle this thing.
Toxin and something skitter. Enemy gains first strike enchantment. Enemy gains venomous enchantment. Enemy turn.
This is a spider type creature.
You take 1 damage. You gain 1 poison stacks. You gain 3 days stacks. Your turn.
Oh, I get to talk about all of these now. Yay! So, let's have a look at my statuses.
Healing Flare Affliction. Poison 1 stacks after playing a card. Take 1 damage. Then decrease poison by 1 when gaining health. Prevent 1 health per stack and reduce poison by 1 for each health prevented.
So, poison does not work like how it does in Slay the Spire. You do not take damage according to the number of poison and lose 1. Instead, every time you play a card, poison is removed. 1 stack of poison is removed, and you lose 1 health. In most cases, this is not always the case, but baseline, you lose 1 health. So this is nowhere near as annoying as the Slay the Spire kind of poison, but it can be just as broken depending on the right conditions. What's more important, however, is...
Flare Affliction. Days 3 stacks when playing a card. Decrease days by 1. When days reaches 0, gain stun. Days fades at the end of the turn.
That doesn't tell you, but I guess you can infer. If you've played X number of cards on your turn and dazed reaches 0, you are stunned, and that means you cannot play any cards after this in your turn. This is important because this limits how many cards I can play per turn.
Healing Potion, Longsword Combo, Build a Gauntlet, Surge of Longsword Combo, Upgrade, Surge of Build a Gauntlet, Combo, Neutral 1 Combo, Activate the game, and blessing with stacks equal to this card's durability. 4 durability, player energy, and 1 STR, 1. Healing, Build it, Surge of Longsword, Player Affliction, Longsword, Surge of Build Combo, gain, and 1 focus action, you gain 1 damage, you gain 1 focus stack, Player Affliction, Longsword Combo, enemy takes 6 damage, Longsword Combo, Upgrade, you gain 1 stun stacks, enemy takes 7 damage, not healing, end turn.
And as you can hear, I am now dealing 6 and 7 damage with my attacks.
End turn, enemy turn. Enemy playing cards, Spitterfight, you deal 3 health, you block the damage, you gain 1 poison stacks. Your turn.
Also, why is spider spelled wrong, I wonder? So, the dazed is gone at the end of this turn, so I can play as many cards as I want now.
Longsword, Black Comet, Surge of Longsword, Surge of, you take 1 Longsword, Surge of it, you gain Player Blessing, Longsword, enemy takes 6 Longsword, enemy takes 6 damage minus Player, block, end turn, victory.
I don't need to, because it's dead.
Show next.
Let's go.
You gain 3 gold, show Player health 100.
And I'm also healed, too.
Field Surgery, STR1, take 4 damage, gain 4 regenerate, charges, 1/1, action, uncommon, red, tooltips, charges, cards with charges can be played X number of times per combat before they become depleted and are removed from combat, regenerate, blessing, at the start of the turn, gain 1 health per stack and decrease regenerate by 1.
Regenerate is a little bit like how regenerate is in Slay the Spire, I guess. I don't see the point in this card, though. I guess you can use it to specifically take damage for yourself, so you can use, like, the Battle Cry Frenzy effect, maybe. But otherwise, I don't see a point in it.
Cerebral Surge, hit 1, gain 3 focus. Increase your maximum hand size by 1. Chains of lightning action, blue, tooltips. Focus, listen, when you foretell, reveal 1 more card for every 3 stacks.
This is definitely an Arcanist card. I'm not going to deal with this one.
Call element, attune to an element of your choice. Player elf 100.
We've already seen Call Element. So again, we're getting some very useless cards given to us, and I'm a little bit afraid that this might be our downfall. I hope not.
Show deck, show character, skip rewards.
I'm going to skip again.
Exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your weapon power to campsite. Brief respite from the barrels of adventure.
You heard that big noise. That noise means the boss has just appeared. I have defeated every other enemy. Now the boss doesn't have to appear when you've defeated every other enemy. the boss can sometimes appear when you're only partway through all the things in the area. And there's a way, and this is the thing I actually really like about this game, is there's a way that you can, after defeating the boss, you can still go through the rest of the area and do things that you haven't managed to do when it comes to the rest of the cards in the deck. So, for example, if there's enemies that you still want to defeat after defeating the boss, you can, if you feel like. Or if there's remaining campsites that you want to go to like lick your wounds or whatever, you can do that too.
Campsite boss Weeping Mother. Campsite a brief respite from the perils of adventure. Camp boss Weeping Mother Brood Slayer.
This boss is our first boss. It's a big spider-like thing, and it has a couple of annoying things about it, but hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to defeat.
Enemy gains weapon enchantment. Enemy enchantment. Weapon inflict 4 enemy your turn. Enemy enchantment. Weapon inflict 4 days. Build a gauntlets comma neutral 1 comma end turn.
I'll read it in full now.
Build enemy enchantment. Weapon inflict 4 days at the end of each turn.
Inflict 4 days at the end of each turn. So what this does is you will always have 4 days at the beginning of every turn except the first, because the enemy hasn't taken a turn yet. See, so
Build a battle cry. Block common. Battle cry comma comma.
I can set up
one healing surge of
as
enemy
much as I
inflict surge of
can.
you gain player healing block common. Build a block common player equipment. Build a gauntlets 4. You gain 4 momentum stacks.
No, not momentum again.
Healing post block common. You gain 3 armor stacks. End turn.
I'll do some armor just in case. I might take some damage here because the bosses can usually play more than one card at a time.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Toxic height. You deal 1 health. You block the damage. You take 1 damage. You gain 1 poison stacks. Release. You take 4 damage. You gain 4 days stacks.
That's supposed to be Brood Slice,
End turn.
but it's really weird. So Toxic Bite does
Play enemy set previously played cards. Toxic bite deal damage. 2 damage twice. Inflict poison for each damage dealt.
2 damage twice, inflict poison for each damage dealt, and
Previously played cards. Release deal damage. 4 damage. On hit. Interrupt.
on hit interrupt.
Setting. Enemy player. Surge of player energy. End surge of end
It
turn.
doesn't really apply to me, but
Surge bolster. Longsword.
now
Longsword comma.
we
Longsword
are
comma. Player equipment. Longsword comma. Bolster strike. Surge of strength. You take 1 damage. You deal 1 bolster strike comma.
bolster
Enemy takes 5
strike,
damage. Longsword comma. Upgrade. Choose energy
longsword,
type. The latest. Enemy takes 6 damage. Bash comma comma. Deal damage. You gain 1 stun stacks. Enemy takes 4 damage. 37 left. Longsword comma.
and
Disable.
as you
End.
can
Show
hear,
character sheet.
they
End
are
turn.
still relatively healthy. And I'm stunned now, so I can't use any cards even if I had the ability to.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Infestation. Spider bird linked to your deck. Spider bird linked to your deck. Infestation. Spider bird linked to your deck. Spider bird linked to your deck.
Now,
You gain
this
4 days
is
stacks. Your turn.
one of the other things that this thing does.
Show character sheet.
We haven't gotten to actually see what it does yet, but basically, it adds like random cards into your deck that if you draw, will immediately make you take damage and get poison. You can also have these remain in your deck, and the boss can heal, like feast off of their own babies, as it were, or whatever. It's very morbid if you think about it, but they can heal health by basically exhausting one of those cards that it just put in your deck from it. Hopefully, we won't get to see that happen much.
Surge of intellect comic. You get longsword bolster block comma player equip block post longsword bolster strike comma upgrade. Enemy takes 5 longsword comma upgrade. Choose energy type. Enemy takes 6 damage. Bash comma comma deal damage. You gain 1 stun stacks. Enemy takes 4 damage. 22 left. Block comma disable longsword end turn.
As you can hear, it says disabled. If I try to click
Longsword
one,
comma disable comma. I can't play this card right now.
I can't play this card right now.
End turn. Enemy turn. End turn. Enemy playing cards. Release. You block the damage. Toxic bite. You take 2 damage. You gain 2 poison stacks. You take 2
Ow.
damage. You gain 2 poison stacks. You gain 4 days stacks. Your turn. End turn.
Wow, I still haven't drawn a spider yet. What?
Surge of longsword bolster surge of intellect comma. You take 1 damage. You gain bolster strike comma up. You take 1 damage. Enemy longsword comma upgrade. Choose energy type. You take 1 damage. Enemy bolster bash comma deal damage. You gain 1 stun stacks. You take 1 damage. Enemy takes 4 damage. 7 left. Bolster longsword end turn.
Okay, it's almost dead now. It's probably going to heal, though.
End turn. Enemy turn. Enemy playing cards. Feasting. Enemy heal 6 13 left. Burn spider
I
brutally.
knew it.
Release. You block the damage. Infestation. Spider bird linked to your deck. Spider bird linked
And
to your
there's
deck.
another couple.
You gain 4 days stacks. Your turn. End turn. You take 1 damage. You gain 1 poison stacks.
Yep. I just drew one. Basically, these kinds of on-play cards will enter your hand, do their on-play effect, and then get discarded immediately, and you draw another card in their place. So you don't actually get to see them in your hand at all. Sometimes you do. It's rare, though. There are quite a lot of cards that will like auto discard like this.
Block common surge of surge of Longsword, surge of strength, you take 1 damage. You block common neutral 1 surge of intellect, gain. You get Longsword, clear it, Longsword, enemy takes 7 damage, 6 left. You gain block common, you gain 1 stun stacks, you gain 3 armor stacks, block, clear it, block, end turn. Enemy turn, end turn. Enemy playing cards, toxic ice, you block the damage, you block the damage. Feasting, enemy heal 6 spell left, burns fire bruiling. Feasting, enemy heal 6 18 left, burns fire bruiling. You gain 4 days stacks, your turn.
I had a feeling it was going to do
End
that.
turn. Longsword, comma, Longsword, healing post, battle, surge of intellect, battle. You gain 1 clear, equip, surge of intellect, I reach my mag, Longsword, comma, up, end turn.
It said I've reached my maximum energy.
Longsword, enemy takes 6 damage, heal, Longsword, you gain 1 stun stacks, enemy takes 6 damage, 6 left, you end turn.
Let's
Enemy
hope
turn.
I can defeat
End
it
turn.
this time.
Enemy playing cards, toxic ice, you heal 1 health, you block the damage, release, you block the damage. You gain 4 days stacks, your turn.
Now, to prevent the
take
thing
1 damage,
from
you gain
being
1 poison stacks, end
unfair, the feasting card is very energy heavy, so it cannot add cards and then feasting immediately to heal health without them being in your deck for at least a turn or so.
Surge of bolster, Longsword, comma,
I've
Longsword,
gotten
comma,
to the
upgrade,
point
bolster,
where I
comma,
can
upgrade,
kill
plus 1,
it now.
NSTR 1, comma, deal, Longsword, you take 1 damage, enemy takes 7 damage, minus 1 left, victory, next.
So I
Click clear
will.
gold 91, next.
And there we go, it's gone.
You gain 5 gold, so show deck, clear elf 85.
I've taken a bit of a hit there, but it's nowhere near as bad as it could have been. I still have 85 out of 100 health. And by the way, you can make your maximum health be broken as hell. I've once had 200 max health in a build. It was insane. Again, I think part of the reason why I like this game more than Slay the Spire is that you have the ability to kind of break it in different ways, depending on what kind of cards you're dealt. And while that does make it a lot more random, I think it's more fun, personally.
Avenger's choice, comma, neutral 1, comma, conjure forged in blood. If holy was spent, conjure a forged in fire instead. Charges, 1/1, dot action, comma, uncommon, comma, red, comma, tooltips. Charges, cards with charges can be played X number of times per combat before they become depleted and are removed from combat. Comma, forged in blood. Create a battle sphere, dot upgrade all untempered cards for each damage. Player
I
gold
don't
96.
remember what this does exactly, but I don't think I'm interested in it that much. It's a very holy-centric card.
Event, bless weapon, comma, this turn. Whenever you play a basic attack, gain 1 health and holy. Lasting dot divine action, comma,
Now
comma, comma, purple, comma,
this
tooltips. Holy energy, holy can be spent on powerful divine cards. Comma, lasting. The
could
effects of lasting cards extended by 1 turn whenever the card is played
actually be
again.
helpful, maybe. Because that basically means that I can gain extra energy for use with other things. And maybe that will actually get me to use holy for something.
Bestow, comma, NSTR 1, comma, draw 1 card. S. Dot synergy. Draw an additional card. Persistent, dot divine action, comma, rare, comma, purple, comma, tooltips. Persistent. Cards with persistent don't get discarded at the end of the turn and cannot be buried. Comma, synergy. Effects with synergy trigger whenever you play a non-conjured card of the same type while this card is in hand. The card's type is found at the bottom of the card.
I don't quite understand what this does. I know one fact is persistent is like retain in Slay the Spire terms. There are some cards that stay in your hand, and they don't get discarded when you press the end turn button. I will actually choose Bless Weapon. Now, I don't know if this means that I'll turn holy from this point on and actually start collecting holy cards, but maybe.
Add Bless Weapon to deck.
We'll see.
Rose with Canto as a massive spider collapses. You spot a winding path behind it. In the distance, a few torches light the way. The first signs of civilization since you entered the woods.
So, since we've defeated the boss, we get some story text, and
explore the area more.
We have the choice of either exploring the area more, which is what I was talking about, where you can still interact with the area, and the leave option becomes one of the possible choices, or
leave, go to Candle.
You can immediately leave. Now,
leave, go explore the area more.
I'm going to explore just so I can heal at the campsite before I leave.
Exploration,
There's
area, leave this area,
nothing
adventure
left
4.
here.
Campsite, leave it, use weapons, power fortified, leave there, campsite, brief respite from the perils of adventure.
I'm going to choose one of them.
Campfire, warm fire, and relative safety offers only a brief respite from the perils of adventure.
And I can either
remove a card,
or
heal 20%, rest.
There's no point in me removing cards right now, so I'm going to heal once.
You heal 20 health, exploration, use weapon, power fortified weapon, use your campsite, leave area, brief rest, leave area,
leave
this area, adventure
more
4.
campsites, but there's literally no point in me using them. Sometimes the campsites can be very, very helpful if you've taken a bunch of hits. You can kind of partly plan how many of the campsites you want to use in each area at what points. It's not easy to do, and it's sometimes very random, but you can do it. Now, I'm going to press leave, and we will enter into the sort of hub area that we will see twice during this run, called Bright Candle, which is not pronounced correctly. And in here, you will meet a couple of extra characters that I want to talk to and actually get services from before we continue.
Press any to continue. Press any to continue.
This is its own area with its own music. By the way, the music is very atmospheric in this game. I have it turned down so I can actually hear what's going on. But it's kind of cool. I like it.
Recamble, exploration. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use weapon power fortified weapon. Use your weapon power to start your next combat with armor able to show character sheet.
Unfortunately, I wish I could, but it doesn't. It like interrupts for some reason.
Console Evelyn, the commander of Recamble Fortress.
So this is our first option. Again, we're in an exploration area, but Consul Evelyn is who I want to talk to, and I'm going to talk to her now.
Meredith Evelyn, another adventurer answering the gilded summons. You arrived at a fortuitous time. Nice. We could use your assistance in a delicate matter. I'm here to help. I'm here about my pay. I was attacked. Skip. I'm just passing through.
This is what you would choose if you've already heard all of this before. You can start this conversation a couple of different ways.
I'm here to help.
I'm just going to do this one, the standard one.
Meredith Evelyn, glad to hear it's night and you arrived none too soon either. New recruits have been few and far between. Most of them have not been as fortunate as you seem to have been. What happened to these recruits? What happened to these recruits? Meredith Evelyn, it is hard to tell. Some whispers of desertion have started circulating recently after one of our more capable officers went missing. Others suspect their inexperience caused them to fall prey to the local wildlife. Continue. Meredith Evelyn, so you see, our losses outside the battlefield are growing faster than I care to have publicly known, which makes you a good and frankly expendable candidate to investigate this delicate matter. Night.
Expendable. We are being used as a pawn. I mean, isn't that how roguelikes work? Sometimes.
Who are the missing soldiers? Where should I look? I'll investigate these disappearances.
If you're done with the conversation, you don't want to talk anymore about it, this is what you would choose.
I'll investigate who are the missing soldiers. Meredith Evelyn, all of the missing soldiers were part of our recent reinforcements. The console pauses, tapping her desk as if hesitant to continue. Continue. Meredith Evelyn, most of them recruits not unlike yourself. With the brunt of our force down in the ramparts, we have recruits guarding our back. Continue. Meredith Evelyn, I wish I had the numbers to have more experienced soldiers look into this matter, but that's a luxury we can ill afford at this time. Where should I look? Meredith Evelyn, the outskirts of Recamble are still considered hostile territory. Our patrols now stay inside of our fortifications, so your task will be to explore beyond the safety of Recamble's protection to the west or to the east. I'll investigate these disappearances. Meredith Evelyn, glad to hear it. Night. Report back with any information, and the gilded summons will make it worth your time. Leave. Exploration. Show character sheet.
So, that's the story part. Now we get to talk to a couple of other people.
Alchemist, my potions are at least 47% safe.
There's the alchemist.
Blacksmith, the fire still burned right inside the workshop.
There's the blacksmith, and I definitely do want to visit him.
Fortress gates leave Recamble Adventure Fort.
And there's the fortress gates. Now, technically, there's also an inn, but the inn is useless for me right now because, technically, I'm fully healed. And I also don't want to waste my money healing either, because that costs money. The blacksmith, though, I definitely do want to visit.
Blacksmith, the fire still burned right inside the workshop.
Let's do that.
Regar fire on ace, 30 man swings a hammer at his blackened anvil before he looks up. How can I'll Regar help you? 20 gold, upgrade a card. 30 gold, remove a basic attack. 50 gold, upgrade all your basic attacks.
This is what I want to choose. For the price, this is insane. This will upgrade all 5 of the basic attacks, and if you're playing by like without the insane meta progression rewards, you'll have even more basic attacks possibly, and it'll be even more worth it.
Leave 50 gold, upgrade all your basic attacks. You lose minus 50 gold. Longsword upgraded. Lock player elf 100.
And now this will mean that my long swords will deal even more damage and will give me more armor as well.
Recamble in this shabby inn looks more like a makeshift infirmary.
There's the inn.
Alchemist, my potions are at least 47% safe. Fortress gates leave Recamble Adventure
Now,
Fort.
the alchemist is kind of interesting. You can buy a bunch of different kinds of potions, and also there is a service that allows you to transform cards. Basically, you choose a card, and you can choose to have it transformed into one of either the same rarity or a higher rarity. Cards are either common, uncommon, rare, or legendary. Again, very Slay the Spire-esque. And this is one way, like if you have a rare card, to transform into something legendary if you feel like. My deck is fine as it is, so I don't want to mess with it. Also, I still have my healing potion, so I don't really feel like using it. For now, I am going to press the leave button.
Fortress gates leave Recamble Adventure Fort.
And I'm going to go through the dialogue and show you one last thing, and then I think we've done enough for one video, so hopefully when I come back we'll continue and actually we'll actually get through more of the game. In terms of the way the story is structured, it is structured in what the game calls cantos. In Slay the Spire, this is roughly equivalent to your acts. In Slay the Spire, there's usually 3 acts, sometimes 4 if you manage to get the keys and things. In this game, there are 6 cantos with 2 visits to Bright Candle after cantos 1 and 2. After canto 6, there is a final boss battle, which is its own thing, and possibly an extra area if you've managed to beat the final boss on a higher difficulty level, which I never have. These cantos are what mark your progress through the story, and these have different possible kinds of maps you can enter. There are, depending on which DLCs you have installed, there are different maps for Canto 1, Canto 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each one can be chosen, and that's what it's going to ask me now. Well, first of all, it's going to ask me if I'm sure if I want to leave Bright Candle, but after that, it will ask me which map I want to continue with, and I'll choose the core one, the one that's installed for everyone by default.
Out of Fortress Gates, leave Brickcandle and venture forth. Brickcandle Gates as you approach the guards near the gates, they solemnly salute you, ready to head back out so soon, knight. Not yet. Leave, I am ready.
If you really feel like you don't want to get out just yet, you can cancel out for now, but once you press this button, you will confirm and it will ask you where you want to go next. If you're using the mobile version and you have no DLCs installed, it will immediately move to the map, the what it calls the Eastern Blightwoods, which is Canto 2 core, but for me it's going to ask me where I want to go.
Player Eastern Blightwoods core, travel to the dense and thorny woodlands.
And yes, this is where I want
Eastern
to go.
Blightwoods core, travel to the dense and thorny woodlands.
You can also choose
Grove of the Dying Star, Tribes of Twilight, travel to the mysterious moonlit shrine.
or
The Vestry Mansion, Masks of Misery, enter the lively mansion outside of Brickcandle. The Eastern Blightwoods core, travel to the dense and thorny
I'm
woodlands.
going to use the Eastern Blightwoods map.
Player Elf 1, press any to continue.
And I'm going to press A once more to get to the exploration area.
Deal with the bandits. Deal with the bandits. Console leveling wants you to investigate the disappearance of several recruits. Whispers of desertion have led you into the Blightwoods, a secluded area to the east of Brickcandle.
Here we're going to see a lot of bandit enemies. We were fighting animals, random creatures before. Now we're going to be fighting people, basically. They have a lot more skills, more health, and more ways of debilitating us. So it's going to get harder from here. We won't get to experience this today, however, because I'm going to quit. So I'm going to press A to dismiss
Player Elf
this,
100. Exploration. Player Elf 100.
and it will show the exploration screen so you can actually start playing. I'm going to really quickly show you the character sheet in case you're interested.
Show deck. Cards per player goal for show character sheet. Copy 01Z code.
I don't know why it does that, but if you press down,
Close character panel. Attributes. Talents. Bounties.
you have these tabs at the top, and you can choose which one you want to look at. If you go past this in the attribute screen, you see
Artist of the Sea. Knight. 2.
the level,
A black man with a stern expression and short. Health 100/100.
portrait, the health,
Experience 297/400.
the experience,
Sun gold 46. Weapon longsword. Weapon cooldown 2. Cards per turn 5. Maximum hand size 10. Poison damage 1. Combat fatigue 0.
I don't even know what that means.
Fatigue resistance 4. Imbued by enchanter 0.
Imbues by Enchanter will become very helpful, well, maybe not as a stat, but just imbuing in general. I'll talk about it when we get there.
Luck 8%.
I don't even know what that means.
Additional gold plus 5%. Additional experience plus 10%. Run duration 135 and 53 seconds.
We've been going for a long time.
Run duration 130. Run rate. Additional luck. Imbued with combat poison. Black
Unfortunately, I
card
have
weapon.
to
Weapon
go
sun gold.
all
Full
the way
experience 2
back.
health. A black man. Artist of the Sea. Bounties. Talents. Attribute. Close character panel. Show character sheet.
And
Settings.
there we go. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything. Instead, I'm going to show you that you can return to the title screen from the settings menu if you feel like.
Settings. Sound. Display and performance. Gameplay set. Accessibility. Advanced settings. Report a bug. Return to.
Return to menu.
Background music volume is 20 for return to.
If you feel like abandoning the entire run from here, which you can do, then you would go to the advanced section, I think. But I don't want to do that. Instead, I'm going to press return to menu.
Settings. Continue.
And now we're back in the main menu. You don't have to do this. You can just Alt F4 out of the game, or whatever. But it's a thing that was held over from the mobile version. So, that was Canto 1, and I've spent about 2 hours explaining things. I hope this was somewhat informative or somewhat interesting for any of you who has actually taken the time to watch it. It was definitely fun, and This is considered by me to be almost like easy mode. I'm going through this, and it's like way easier than most of the runs that I've been doing in the past few months. So hopefully we'll have an easier time going through the rest of it, and I can actually make a build that works well. But we'll see. We'll see. So that was that. I'm now going to exit out of here by pressing Alt F4.
Untitled 1. Gold.
And
Steam Big Picture Mode. Steam Big Picture Mode.
Big Picture Mode comes back. I'm going to Alt Tab over. So that was that. I hope you've had some enjoyment out of this. It was definitely fun coming back and talking about this and sharing it with you. Until next time, I'm hoping to make this a semi-regular occurrence. I'm going to continue, and we'll hopefully get to Cantos 2 and 3 in the next part, because I don't need to explain so much. And until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.